South Main. Tonight you've got Thursday night football, a perfect place to go watch those games, indulge in some delicious food. If you don't want to indulge, you don't want to go with the fried food, the bar menu type stuff, they actually have a delightful spinach salad if you're trying to stay healthy. Really, they've got something for every taste on that craft food menu at Big Willie's. Also, adult libations, soft drinks, cocktail specials, draft beers, every bottle you could imagine. Tell them OC sent you. You will get your name entered into a drawing to win 2 club-level tickets to the Utah Mammoth. 1717 South Main at Big Willie's. Tell them OC sent you in. All right. Fun show lined up for you today. We always do our best to bring you that. Gordy Chiesa, our NBA insider, is probably going to feel a little vindicated by his optimism over the Utah Jazz. 1 game in, and the Utah Jazz looked absolutely spectacular last night. Walker Kessler, baby. Let's go. We'll get into that a little bit. Not by any stretch of the imagination the biggest story in the NBA right now. Eric Weddle on the show today, dishing with Dev coming up at noon as we catch up with QB1 for the University of Utah after a BYU loss. And more importantly, it's Thursday, man. We're turning the page. We're on to Colorado. We're on to this week, and we'll talk about it with Dev, but there is no room for any more mistakes for this Utah football team. None. You are now in a zero-sum operation when it comes to any margin for error. So Colorado's the right kind of team to have a bounce-back game against. They're not much better than West Virginia was. They're more talented, but they're not much better. Those are two different things that I probably don't do a good enough job of separating on the show. We're going to get to all of that.
As I said, OC, the Jazz are going to win the NBA championship.
That's right, James.
As I said in my predictions yesterday.
The revised prediction for the
Revised
Utah
prediction,
Jazz.
that's what I said yesterday.
The over-under that Vegas said 18.5 is now 68.5 wins for the Utah Jazz. So
being in the building last night, OC, it was shocking. It was 78-47 at halftime, and I'm like, where did this come from? From both sides, from the Jazz playing this well, the young players playing this well. Keontae George looked like an all-star too at point guard compared to the inconsistencies we've seen from him his first few years. Walker Kessler looked like an MVP. Lauri Markkanen looked like the peak Lauri Markkanen. But from the other side, where did this terrible performance from the Clippers come from, where they rested no one, by the way? It's part of it sort of validated my feeling on just them not being very trustworthy as title contenders, but I still thought that they would be a playoff team, OC. They didn't play like a playoff team last night, obviously one of 82.
Well, they're probably going to be a playoff team, but to the point you're making, when James Harden gives you 29 minutes, Kawhi Leonard gives you 29 minutes, Bradley Beal is in there for 20 minutes. Even the bench has guys that, I mean, if
John Collins, who was really good for the Jazz last year.
The name value on the Clippers bench is stronger than the star name value in the Jazz organization, even the starting lineup. You've got an aged Chris Paul. Nicholas Batum has had some great years in the NBA. John Collins, as you already mentioned. And
he had a nice night, by the way.
129-108 Utah Jazz victory. We'll digest it a little bit more with Gordy Chiesa, but far more fascinating than this.
Impossible.
Far more fascinating than this is a Hollywood drama being played out between federal law enforcement and some NBA connections. Mark my words, there will be a Hollywood adaptation of this story, hopefully sooner than later. On Twitter, I've already started to cast the characters for this Hollywood adaptation that maybe goes to HBO, maybe goes straight to Netflix. Those are Hollywood.
Is it Michael B. Jordan, Chauncey Billups, maybe? Or who did you have for Chauncey?
No, Michael B's too young.
Too young. It's true.
Chauncey Billups is
you can put a little
50.
touch of gray in the facial hair.
I said Idris Elba is Chauncey Billups.
Okay, Idris. Yeah. Okay.
And that's probably you know who would also be great, and he's a little too old to play Chauncey Billups, but Chauncey hasn't aged particularly well. Denzel as Chauncey Billups would be fantastic.
Yep. I was actually just thinking that as you were about to say it.
Denzel's my favorite actor. He's the best actor in Hollywood. In any case, far more interesting than anything that's happening on the floor. Even Victor Wembanyama just putting together a personal highlight reel.
MVP, I'm telling you. MVP. He was
40
incredible.
points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks in 30 minutes.
Dunking from like 7 feet away, not even jumping. It looked like just like Stretch Armstrong arms.
He did. Everyone was going bananas over that that little move, and then the under the hoop reverse
up and
jam.
under reverse jam. Yeah,
I was like, that actually was the least athletic play he made. He just was so tall. He's like, crap. All right. Anyway, you've all seen it. You've all heard it. Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, arrested by federal law enforcement in a coast-to-coast sting in separate but related cases, is how it was called by Kash Patel, the director of the FBI. The Rozier thing is actually far more serious from an NBA and a sports perspective because it's insider information that was used for gambling. And there's this continual conversation about sports gambling and the legal nature in so many places now, and whether or not corruption is more or less likely because it is now just in your phone in 80% of the states. It's just now something that you can engage in. And by the way, even here in Utah, while we don't have FanDuel, DraftKings, things like that you can just go and place a wager on, we do have the like Underdog Fantasy. You have the daily fantasy leagues that are kind of that gray area. You also have these futures markets on things like Robinhood now.
Yeah, what's it called? Shy something. Anyway, where you can basically buy a stock as on who's going to win a game, which is betting.
It's betting. It's sports betting,
but it's just through some loophole that it's not betting.
Yes,
from a legal standpoint.
My lovely wife, who is the most insanely financially irresponsible human being I've ever met in my life, also happens to be an absolute savant when it comes to playing the stock market. She is a genius on what stocks to buy, and there's no articulated method to the madness. She's just gifted. She just knows.
Intuition, this one's going to be good.
She just gets it, right?
It's amazing.
And her return on that has been so incredible.
Shout out to her.
She's got this she's got this little Robinhood thing going on. And this is probably a couple months ago. She was just like, hey, who's going to win this? And I was like, what are you talking about? Why would you ever ask me that question? You've never asked me a question like that. And she showed me on Robinhood the stock investment apps that you could bet, and it's called like a futures prediction or something like that. But you can buy the future on the Clippers only scoring 108 points to the Jazz's 129. I don't know if you could have done this one on, but in any case, sports gambling is a thing now that is just, it has been deeply ingrained in American society for a long time, but there was always kind of a barrier for the average Joe or the average Jane. I was working in sports bars and clubs through college. The bookies were just running things openly at the bar. Like, they would sit there at the bar with their little sheet, their little stack of index cards. Guys or gals would come in, sit down next to them, place the bet, and it's kind of like, people considered it sort of this like victimless crime, which is far from that. But it was like, I knew a guy in the fight world who collected for the bookies, that kind of thing.
It's like very much it's not legal, but we can look the other way.
You could go to some of the bars that I was working in, watch this bookie do his business while there was like an off-duty cop sitting 3 tables away, and they're not trying to fight that battle.
It's like a Batman movie.
Yeah, they don't care. They're just like, oh, whatever. He's just, this is small time, like behind the scenes sports betting. So there was always that. It's always been happening. Your dad probably has a bookie, and then he goes and he sits in, elders quorum meeting on Sundays, and nobody bats an eye. It's not that big of a deal.
What are you accusing my dad of, OC? Jeez.
I didn't mean, I meant the royal you.
Right.
All of you out there listening.
The royal you.
It's just been a thing, right? But there was, for years and years and years, there was this barrier to entry where you didn't necessarily want to get into that, right? If you were somebody who had questions about how it was going to happen, if you didn't know who a bookie was, if you didn't hang out in sports bars, if there wasn't that guy in your ward who was a sports gambler
in
who
my
knew
ward,
somebody,
OC,
then you probably didn't do it. Now, it's just in your phone. Nobody has to know. Now, you're sitting there asking your husband, hey, who's going to win this game? Because it's on your Robinhood app, right? So for Terry Rozier or anyone else to try to use insider information, and for people, who's the other guy? What's his name?
Damon Jones,
to be like, hey, LeBron's not playing in this game, so you can bet accordingly because he would know before other people would know. Like, I don't know how you put much of a lid on that, although the legal form of sports gambling is actually far more fraud protected than when it was all illegal. There's no way you can make a case otherwise. It might be a greater, a broader brush in terms of how many people are now involved in attempted schemes, but it's certainly not as deep and as intricate on the legal gambling front as it used to be on the illicit gambling front. So we'll let these investigations play out. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty, yada, yada, yada. But the fun stuff, the Hollywood stuff, is the Chauncey Billups side of this equation. And I've got no love or affection or what connection to Chauncey Billups. I don't know if people here do.
I liked him as a player. One of my favorites.
If you're a person of means, all right, if you're somebody who's driving around in a G-Wagon right now, if you're on your way up to your ski chalet in Park City, and you get an invite to play poker with somebody who's connected to the NBA, somebody who's connected in professional sports. Hey, Tom Brady's got a poker game going on. Do you want to come play with me and with Tom Brady? You're like, you own a paint distribution company. You're somebody who sold your insurance firm and you got a bunch of cash. Here's a public service announcement. They don't actually want to hang out with you. They want to take your money from you. And that's how allegedly, got to throw allegedly on. It's kind of like our with all due respect.
Right.
You have to say allegedly in cases like this. It does mean you get to say whatever you want to say. Allegedly. See, if I say allegedly, now I can say anything I want to after that. Allegedly, Chauncey Billups was one of the, as it was called in the coded language, of the literal mafia, according to the case statements. He was a front-facing card. He was a guy who could be used as bait to bring in these vulnerable, wealthy fish who want to hang out with an NBA player, who want to hang out with a famous person.
I'm not here to take your money. We're just hanging out.
And those people would be brought in to play poker games that were run by the Gambino, Lucchese, Genovese mob families, all of those named in this case, and they would fleece you for your money using, by the way, according to the case documents, using rigged automatic card shufflers, using contact lenses that had some kind of weird technology I don't fully understand, using X-ray technology in the card table itself so that when your cards were face down, people could still read what you had in some kind of back room, and then they could radio it in. I mean, this is, again, illicit gambling. These are illegal, unsanctioned poker games. Trying to pull this off in like a Vegas poker room basically can't be done. If someone's rigging it against you, it's the casino, and if the casino has targeted you, by the way, you're screwed. Just get out of Vegas. These are backroom poker games, which, by the way, I know for a stone cold fact, have happened in our home state. I mean, my buddies and I play a poker game, but I'm talking about NBA players, former NBA players, former NBA coaches, some of them very, very prominent, and some of them very, very hated by the Utah Jazz fan base. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Oh.
These poker games are happening in Utah sometimes because they're happening everywhere. But I just know for a fact they were happening in Park City.
Hashtag sources.
In a certain time. We may or may not have had someone who used to work in this exact building, James Peterson, who would bartend for these parties that were happening, run by arguably the most prominent NBA player ever at his – I'm talking about Michael Jordan, obviously, allegedly. He has a long history of gambling, right? He has a long history. He and Charles Barkley have talked pretty openly on separate occasions about –
I thought you were talking about Greg Ostertag. My bad.
Like, these games happen everywhere, and they happened in Park City, and do we know if – well, I'm not going to put that out there. But, like, it's not uncommon, is what I'm saying, for people who've acquired their means through professional athletics to want to gamble.
Absolutely. It's a way to stay competitive for a lot of ex-athletes. There's like a lot of like I think I would guess that our guy Jeff Schwartz, that's part of his motivation is why he's gotten way into it.
He loves sports gambling.
It's a way to stay connected to the sport that you played when you no longer can physically play it, and stay competitive in that sport with a fair amount of stakes on the line. And we hear that from ex-athletes all the time. I'm only presuming that that's a similar motivation for our guy Jeff Schwartz, but because it's that way for a lot of ex-athletes who wager quite a bit.
We had Chad Brown on the show yesterday, 15-year NFL veteran, and I asked him before we ended that conversation about the announcement from the Ravens that they were getting rid of the ping pong table, they were getting rid of the cornhole, they were getting rid of the Xboxes in the locker room. And he was like, the card table that we had in the Patriots locker room was always there. Do you think those NFL players are just dealing cards and not betting money?
Absolutely betting money. They're betting cars and property probably.
There's a really interesting movie that is based on a true story, Molly's Game. Have you ever seen Molly's Game?
I have not.
Jessica Chastain, favorite actress. She's incredible. Jessica Chastain plays Molly Bloom, who is the sister, the real-life sister of Jeremy Bloom, who we talked about on the show yesterday.
Yeah.
The Colorado, he got his cup of coffee in the NFL, the skier, punt returner, wide receiver guy, right?
Yeah.
His sister in real life got caught up in this, was organizing illicit card games for high rollers behind the scenes, and ended up getting cracked down on. And, like, the list of clientele for the Molly's games, and it's now in Hollywood movie you can watch, were, like, big-time, super famous athletes. And then it's the people, by the way, that have a bunch of money, that have the kind of money to gamble with those guys, that don't mind playing for $500, $1,000, $10,000 a hand, that'll throw their car keys to the center of the table on a poker hand. And, like, those guys get invited to these games. Well, guess what? Some of the time, according to this case, that Chauncey Billups is the person that invites you to the game, the mob is trying to get your money from you.
The technology that you described is like a spy thriller.
Yes.
It's like James Bond, Casino Royale, except that was not near as high tech as this. Like it's incredible to hear that. Also, is this a lot like the Astros sign stealing scandal, where it's like, it's okay if you know my tells. It's not okay if your table can see my cards.
That's right.
All right?
Like, my buddy Tim, when my friends and I, my old high school buddies and I get together and play poker, Tim is better than all of us, right? There's like a 75% chance Tim is going to win the game, and we're all just giving Tim the buy-in, which is very minimal police and gaming commission don't come after me for admitting that we play a poker game, right? It's nothing. Like, Tim he understands the game better than we do, probably. And
reads your guys' tells better than you guys read his. Yeah.
Tim is not using X-ray technology to spy on our cards. Okay.
But wait, does he wear sunglasses? He got some rigged sunglasses or something?
He lures us in with a very well-stocked pantry, okay. And he gives us open access to the drink fridge for whatever, Diet Dr. Peppers, and then he's like, all right, I'm going to take your money now. It's fine. Gambling, like, an advantage to be found in gambling, if you go down to Vegas and you play in the poker rooms, right? There's some guys that are good. There's some guys that are like, that's their job. They just go and they job around whatever poker rooms, and they take money off of people like me who are in Vegas twice a year.
Try to win World Series of Poker eventually.
Like, yeah, and they try to get their bracelets. They play tournament poker, whatever. There are people who do that. That's fine. It's kind of like if you're the dude who runs faster, jumps higher, and lifts more weights than everybody else, you have advantages. The illicit advantage that is put into play by the mob, and somehow they've decided that NBA players, and bear with me here, we've got 3 names, right? There's multiple different arrests across multiple different states.
So the article, the ESPN article, at this point, it's probably going to be updated a bunch of times today. It's already been updated a few times. It says 34 people in total have been arrested to this point.
Okay. And obviously not all those people are going to have connections to the NBA, but I don't think that these 3 are the only people with NBA or professional sports connections are going to be the ones that we hear their name. And this opens that Pandora's box for everyone who thinks, you know what? These things have been happening for a long time. We know that, there were referees that got busted for point shaving. There's been players that got busted for point shaving. We got things happening with minutes manipulation and all that kind of stuff. You go all the way back. I tweeted this because I think it's hilarious, but also might be true. I enjoy a good sports conspiracy theory. Like, there are people out there who think that Michael Jordan's absence and when he went to play baseball was a behind-the-scenes, under-the-table deal with the NBA.
Was a suspension,
to serve
not
a gambling suspension without shaming him and tarnishing the league, so to speak. There are people that believe that wholeheartedly, and Michael has been pretty open, far more open, since retirement about the idea that, like, he's, gambling is a vice of his. And the thing with him is he's a billionaire. So if he runs up millions and millions of dollars of bad gambling debt, kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, and especially given the fact that what did the Air movie say? He has over $400 million a year in passive income from Air Jordan.
Yeah, and
so
by the way,
he's always got something rolling in because of the Jordan brand.
And that was before he sold the Hornets.
That's true. So he's got even more. Yeah.
I mean, he made more off the sale of that NBA franchise, his sale of ownership, than he did, I think, ever off of the Jordan brand.
Yeah.
Which is considerable money, like
Absolutely.
Huge amounts of money, right? Dana White, the owner of the UFC, is a notorious gambler. He's a guy who throws big money down. He's also a very successful gambler to the point where there are casinos in Las Vegas he is not welcome to gamble at anymore.
He beats the house
because
too much.
He beats the house, and when he beats the house, he takes hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars off the house.
What a shame. What a shame these casinos losing. Like, how dare someone be better than the casinos?
I mean, we're going to let the investigation play out. I'm morbidly fascinated by it because It's going to be a Hollywood movie at some point.
Chris Rock will play Damon Jones, by the way. Not
perfect.
Not in the. He's not connected to the rigged poker game part of this, but if the movie's about all of this, it'll be Chris Rock. That's the doppelganger for him.
The public service announcement, if there is one to be had here, is like, unless you know somebody who actually, if you're a person of wealth and you randomly get an invite to go play poker or blackjack or whatever at somebody's villa, at somebody's Park City mansion, and there's not a real reason for them to be inviting you to this game, you're not like connected to their agent, or there's not like some actual
maybe turn
Kevin
around.
Bacon 7 degrees of separation, like this person knows me somehow. You're being invited so they could take your money, and it might. And like Michael Jordan doesn't need your money. Chauncey Billups isn't the guy who wants your money. It's bad people who are trying to take your money from you.
This is the first time that I had considered that, and I probably way too naive, to have not considered this, but it's the first time I've considered that the mob might be behind some of these things.
Well, the mob is connected with basically every...
It's true.
I shouldn't say the mob. Organized crime finds a way to get their fingers on any income stream that exists in the world. I don't know if I've told you this story. I think I have. So I'm obsessed with prehistoric life, fossils, dinosaurs. James, for years, long before the Utah Mammoth became the Utah Mammoth, for years I've been trying to get a mammoth tusk because they're coming out of the permafrost in Alaska, northern Canada, and especially Siberia at an alarming rate because of the melt of that permafrost, right? And I made the mistake of watching a documentary on the underground trade on this, I don't know, like 4 years ago. I have access to fighters, people, camps, coaches who are from Russia, from Siberia, on a pretty regular basis. And I have asked every single one of them, hey, could you guys connect me? I want a mammoth tusk. Could you get me a mammoth tusk? Because to try to buy it from like a collector in Alaska is like $200,000. You could get them in Siberia for like 1/100th of that. So I'm like, could you guys help me out here? And their response, unfailingly, is like, you don't want to be involved with the people who are in control of that.
It's like the Jurassic World Dominion dinosaur.
The dinosaur black market.
Dinosaur black market.
But they're like these people. These are serious people, James.
Yeah.
These are fighters and coaches who, by the way, organized crime has a long history of being involved in combat sports also. So they're not people who are like, hey, I've never even heard of those kind of people.
They probably know them personally.
They've probably seen them at fights. They've probably gotten paychecks from them in the past on like the local Russian scene. And every single time the answer is the same. You don't want to get involved with those people. Now, why do they control that? It's paleontology. Why would the organized crime be involved? Because it's an unregulated industry that is lucrative, because there are people in the world who want these bones. Museums want these bones. The ivory is indistinguishable from elephant ivory, so you can sell it in China as elephant ivory in the traditional Eastern medicine markets, and it's worth insane amounts of money there. So I'm getting off on a tangent here, but organized crime gets involved with any revenue stream they can find.
So of course they'll be involved in just regular poker games. They're going to play off as like this. Yeah, this is just a fun poker game of my buddies who happens to be Chauncey Billups.
Yeah, not the poker games that you and your mailman, accountant, sales bro buddies are engaging in, but the poker games that Michael Jordan, Chauncey Billups, Tom Brady, whoever, like these guys that the buy-in is whatever, $100,000 or something. I don't know. It's wild that this is happening in real time. We are watching something that is about to be a Hollywood movie happen in real time, James. It's amazing.
I'll say this just to kind of put a bow on my thoughts on this in general, OC, to what you started to when you started to talk about this, you talked about you were starting to formulate a thought on what is okay. Is this okay that we have so much access to sports betting, to betting in general, right? Particularly sports betting now is the thing that's in vogue. And even though it's a lot more regulated because it's legal, and that's a good thing, I still think that a lot more way more people are losing a lot more money now because it is legalized than when you were talking about working for bars and knowing that guy's a bookie, that guy's a bookie, that guy's a bookie. Just because that wall of like, that's not okay, really does, I believe, and maybe I'm way too naive about this, but I believe it really does keep a lot more people out of that.
It absolutely
A lot
does.
of people think that that's ridiculous. Everyone's doing it anyway. I would say no. You put up you draw a hard line on something. More people don't cross that line, even though a good amount of people still cross the line.
Yeah, it's kind of, okay. You know, it's a good example of this. Fireworks in Utah.
Yeah.
Okay. When I was a kid, the only rule my dad has ever broken in his life is he would drive us across the state line into Wyoming to buy the big mortars, to buy the bottle rockets, to buy
the good stuff,
the fireworks of his childhood, right? Because he was like, this is America, man. This is what your 4th of July is supposed to be like. Those things were illegal in Utah at the time, right?
Yeah.
And you would see them. You would see them in every neighborhood, but you would see like one house in each neighborhood that had a few of them that did the same thing, that drove across the state line, spent $100, came back, whatever. Now, I've got my house. I'm fortunate enough my house is up on the hill. I've got a view of the Salt Lake Valley. I can sit out there on New Year's. I can sit out there on the 4th of July, and I can watch literally thousands of houses with the big-time fireworks. Why, James? Because it's legal now.
Because it's legal, and so the majority of people who are like, no, I'm not going to do something illegal, they're now going, well, it's not illegal, so I'll do it. When it was illegal, that's still the majority of people. The majority of people want to follow the rules. I know I sound like, to some of you, I sound like a naive idiot saying that, but it's true.
Why does BYU now have a flood of NIL funds instead of like one random guy buying Nick Emery a Volkswagen Jetta? Why is it now every athlete at BYU can access a massive amount of NIL opportunity? Because now it is legal, it's allowable. You don't have to jump through hoops. You don't have to do anything illicit to get that. It was always available in the SEC. It was always available at Ohio State and Michigan because they had a system worked out. Now everybody has a system like that worked out, and we have watched it change the face and change the landscape of college football. When you make something legal, as sports betting has become more ubiquitous and more legal, well, I should say, it has become more legal, almost all legal, but it's become more legal. It is now everywhere because that barrier to entry on everything we do in life is enough to keep at least half the people out. Yeah. Like the no trespassing sign that you put on your fence is enough to keep most people from coming into your yard. That's crazy, but it works.
It's just a sign, yeah. I say all that to say I do not think, and I never did think, that this level of legality with sports betting was a good thing. And even though there's less fraud, and we're finding out publicly about this fraud, this kind of stuff that we would not have found out publicly, at least this quickly, because it's legal, even with that benefit, the amount of people that think, yeah, I'll just risk my livelihood, I'll just risk more money than I can afford. And I know that's not every sports bettor. There's plenty of responsible sports bettors out there. Don't come at me with that. But enough are like, I'm going to risk more than I can afford because I feel really good about these great odds. And it's really bad, OC. I hope that anyone that's involved in it is that responsible sports bettor. You're wagering, not gambling, right? But it scares me that there's more people than you realize that are not doing it responsibly. They're getting addicted, and I don't know. Anyway, that's a larger commentary on the whole thing, but it's a great. It's a.
I don't have that same level of concern necessarily, because there's an anecdote on. Everyone's got probably multiple anecdotes on both sides of that thing.
That's a good point,
and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's when you deregulate a substance and make it more available to people. I guess it probably does increase the likelihood that people are going to. And in the case of gambling, we know that's true. But the more relevant thing with this story that's coming out in the NBA is that the league itself now has a federal investigation to deal with, to handle, to do the PR around when it comes to poker games. That's just a Hollywood script to me. When it comes to manipulating information, minutes, things like that, point shaving, that's a real league problem. And if it's happening in the NBA, I promise you it's happening in college sports, certainly, and probably also in the NFL, Major League Baseball, everywhere else. It's been that way. Is it getting to be more that way? 877-353-0700. Let me know what you think. Are sports gambling problems getting worse? And when I say worse, meaning are more players involved now than used to be the case?
And is the integrity of our games that we love to watch way more vulnerable than it's ever been? Even though, like you said, the more regulation means we're going to spot this fraud a lot easier and a lot quicker.
We'll see what Gordy Chiesa thinks about this. He joins us next on the Sean O'Connell Show, brought to you by Big Willie's at 1717 South Main on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Text us your score prediction for Saturday's game, Colorado versus Utah. Closest pick on winner and score gets an ice cream cake from Baskin-Robbins. Baskin-Robbins is hooking you up with an ice cream cake if you predict the score correctly or very close to correct, as Utah takes on Colorado Saturday night right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA guru, joins us. It's a big news day in the NBA. Gordy, how are you?
Sean, I'm doing fine. Thank you.
We're having a lot of fun talking about this Hollywood script that is playing out right in front of us with Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, and the arrests are in separate but related cases, like they said. I want to start with the Chauncey Billups side of things because I think that is the more, if it's correct to say harmless, I don't know, but it's the one that doesn't affect basketball. It's more of just like the late night poker game type stuff, at least according to the allegations. At any point in your career as a coach, being around the game, did you ever have to like pull a player aside, a young player aside, and say, hey, maybe you don't want to get involved with those types of people. Hey, I'm hearing you're playing cards with these types of guys, and I'm from that part of the world. I've heard some of these names. You don't want to get mixed up in this kind of a thing. Was that ever something you had to do as a coach?
Yes, very much. Yeah, very much. Poker games where they're actually face-to-face, 3 or 4 people, either late at night with their friends, seems very innocent, but then it gets crazy. And Sean's alluding to right now with Chauncey Billups, where he was charged with a scheme about underground poker games online where it was rigged, and roughly him and his co-defendants, if it's true, they made $7 million. And, of course, the mafia families were involved also as far as getting a percentage of that money. And so it does happen that you're around people that, let's say, they're risk takers in their own lives, and they love the idea of making money with a high level of intrigue.
On the other side of this, Terry Rozier is being investigated for stuff that's involved with sports gambling. And I think from a sports perspective, this is certainly more significant because you're talking about the integrity of the game. You're talking about people maybe providing information about injuries that is not public, providing insights or information about, hey, a guy who it might be willing to shave a point here or there. I mean, that's where you have to start showing your concern for whether or not we're getting a true sports product if people are involved in things like this. A much more serious issue in my mind. How worried is the NBA on a day like today that some of this stuff is going to expose information we don't want to know as sports fans?
Highly worried right now. And so the NBA as a league is trying to balance between sports wagering and legitimate betting companies. Remember now, betting is legal on NBA games, and also on the platforms, they're one of the sponsors. And so, and from a player standpoint, being as a league, revenue is that's part of the BRI, which is the basketball-related income. That's part of the salary cap, which the players share in it. So betting now is legal in the NBA, and they want it. However, as always, that it gets very interesting because Terry Rozier, who's in the last year of his contract, and Sean, Terry Rozier's contract with Miami Heat is $26.5 million. What he was allegedly doing now, and that's the catchword, allegedly, that he was giving information out to bettors that would increase the odds of winning a bet. So, for example, Sean, often you're a player or a coach, you're innocent, and people ask you, is so-and-so playing tonight? I can't tell how many times people ask me that question at 7-Eleven at 7:30 in the morning, is so-and-so playing tonight? It sounds very innocently, and then I would mumble something saying what? I don't know. Even if I did know, I would say I don't know. And so Rozier and his co-conspirators, they probably said to people that a player isn't playing because of an injury or they're benching him, and that created the betting line was advantageous to somebody. And so they're very concerned, the NBA.
Well, we'll watch how this thing plays out, like I said, but there's also big news in Salt Lake City because the Utah Jazz last night, Gordy, you must be feeling vindicated in your optimism. This is a team that looked great in the opener last night. 129 points against the Clippers team who's supposed to be some kind of contender in the West, and it's not like the Clippers were resting everybody. You had a full-strength roster, and the Utah Jazz handled their business. What was your biggest takeaway from this game?
One, it was a smashing opening night success, and that the Jazz played as a unit. It was beautiful basketball. Remember now that the NBA is basically a first quarter and a fourth quarter league. The Jazz scored 43 points in the first quarter, and they knocked them out, the Clippers, and up by 24 points, 43-19, up 31 at halftime. And so what it came away from that was that how they played as a unit. Jazz gets 38 assists on 48 baskets, which I call them character dimes, where they were passing beautifully as a unit and cutting. And the last part about that is that they made their first 19 shots in the paint, 19 for 19 in the painted area. So that tells us that the passes were on-time delivery, and that the cutting, there was a velocity cutting and hand readiness. And from a Clippers standpoint, they were disjointed, that they weren't sure they're switching. Did they fight over the top? They had too many turning their heads, and the Jazz really took advantage of it. It was beautiful. Keontae George, the point guard play, he was absolutely steady, and so was Walter Clayton. Those guys go 26 points and 15 assists and 4 steals as a duo, and that was part of it. And let's not forget, Larry Marketing, how good he is that he played last night under the influence of winning himself and his teammates, and he delivered. Jazz had 3 players and 20 points or more, led by Walker Kessler, Larry Marketing, and Bryce Sensabaugh off the bench. So it was a smashing success for the Jazz. Happy for the fans, happy for the players, happy for the coaches.
When you see this level of production off the bench for any team in basketball, college, pro, whatever, I mean, that really jumps out to me. You're getting half your team's points off the bench in this one. Like you said, Bryce Sensabaugh led the bench scores. He had 20. Hendricks had 13. Walter Clayton Jr. had 10. Yusuf Nurkic with 8. Ace Bailey, who's the guy I think a lot of people showed up at the Delta Center last night to watch, he had a really pedestrian game. He only scored 2 points in this one, but is the Jazz bench going to be responsible for this kind of production moving forward?
Yes, the answer is because they're going to play. And so the Jazz are going to play their bench, and that's part of smart coaching where you have to develop your understudies, and that's what the Jazz are attempting to do, because the starting lineup might change once in a while. So you come from the starter to a bench play, and from a bench unit to a starter. And so they need 10 players that to play under the influence of teamwork. And that's one of their goals. And last night, in a very short moment, they did it, which was great. You know, I love about Sensabaugh, Sean, is that he comes in the game and he's absolutely confident. And that by having Yusuf Nurkic there as a designated screener, it really helped him. So he was coming off these, without getting so technical, he was coming off these wide screening action led by Nurkic setting a screen, or by Walker Kessler. He was flying off it with a rhythm catch, and he was knocking down shooter. He's replacing Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton as that go-to guy off the bench. And every team that wants to be good needs guys like that, and that was Bryce Sensabaugh.
Gordy Chase is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking about the Utah Jazz victory last night, a surprise victory, I think, for a lot of people as they took down the Clippers in very convincing fashion, 129-108. On Tuesday, we talked about Walker Kessler specifically because he's a guy that I think can really continue to grow, and he led all scorers in this game, 22 points. I don't delude myself into thinking that this is going to be his role in every game this year, but what does it say that he was able to shoulder this level of a scoring load against a team like the Clippers?
That he's ready to play mentally and physically, and he's much stronger. Usually with Walker, when he got in trouble over the first 3 years, this is his 4th year now in a Jazz uniform, he played off balance, where he's able to, people bump him off stride, and he had a hard time recapturing his central force of it. So by weight training, last night, many of his buckets, minus 1 3-point shot. I call them weight room buckets, where he had a lower body strength, and he's able to absorb contact and finish plays. And that's one, maturation. That's what, alertness. And more importantly, he's able to catch the ball. We call it catch high, finish high. Versus what? Catch high, drop the ball low, and try to explode up. And an extra split second makes you what? Off balance, and your shot is blocked. So an improvement. 22 points. He shot 7 for 7. He's perfect. 9 rebounds, 4 blocks, 2 steals. And speaking of steals, Sean, in America, grand larceny is legal in basketball. So the Jazz have 11 steals last night and 6 blocks. And that illustrates that there are activity markers. And those many of those steals were, I call, alligator arms and early eyes. And they were living in and out of the passing lanes, and it paid off. When's the last time the Jazz had 11 steals in a game? It wasn't last year. And so it shows you that the Jazz emphasis in the preseason of better defense and more just activity on the defensive side of the ball came to fruition last night. Very impressive.
Gordy, the thing that got me all fired up, I think yesterday's show, maybe 2 days ago.
I love when you're fired up, Sean. I get excited when you're fired up.
Well, I'm fired up about this, Gordy, and I need you to tell me if I should be, because Louisville signed a guy like this. There's one other school, BYU's recruiting a guy like this right now. The G League is kind of casting off some players, and they're being allowed to return to NCAA basketball. Now, I know that there's always been kind of this like European club to American college basketball pipeline, and the lines have been blurred there. But in the past, if you're a pro athlete in an American league in the same sport, you are not allowed to return to NCAA whatever, baseball, football, basketball. And now it looks like this floodgate's about to open, and that multiple teams are going to have an opportunity to have former pro players, even though they weren't full roster NBA players, but former pro players on their college basketball teams. Is this a bad move? Is this a good move? How should I feel about it? Because it fired me up yesterday.
Okay, I think it's a bad move. Once you turn pro, you've got to stay pro, whether it's in stateside or going back to Europe. And the players in college right now are professional athletes because they're being paid with NIL money. But these guys already played in, quote, the G League, and some have played in an NBA game. So I don't like this rule. I think they're going to eventually have a ruling on it. Not right now, though, but eventually they'll come to a committee meeting at the NCAA, and they will maybe possibly rule against it. So you could be fired up right now, which is commendable, but I do think that it's a bad mission to do that. You're a pro already.
All right, that's how I feel about it, but we'll see how the NCAA nets out on it, and they're just worried about being sued, which unfortunately is what makes most of their decisions these days.
Sean, also, I'm fired up, though. Forget about this guy's going back back to NCAA. I'm fired about the San Antonio Spurs and Victor Wembanyama. It was his first game last night since February 2025. Remember, he had that right shoulder blood clot, and thankfully he was able to see it quickly, and the doctors held him out, and they gave him the right rehab, and he's now back performing. Last night's performance, 40 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks, 15 for 21 field goal percentage, and he had so many jaw-dropping, I can't describe dunks during the game, Sean. It was amazing. And Stefan Kessel played great also. He's the reigning Rookie of the Year, 22.7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. And then Dylan Harper, the second pick of the draft, had also a tremendous game, 15 points, 7 of 14 shooting. So the Spurs had an incredible road victory over the Mavericks. Cooper Flagg struggled because the Spurs defensive players got after him. He had a slow start, 10 points, 10 rebounds, didn't score a bucket until about the second half of the game. So this shows you that you got to be ready mentally to play, and people are going to try to stop you. But Wembanyama was absolutely sensational.
He's amazing. He's fun to watch. He will remain so as long as he's on the floor. How about VJ Edgecombe? More points in a rookie debut than anyone since Wilt? Is that what I read correctly?
That's correct. Yeah, since Will Chamberlain. So B.J. Edgecombe from Baylor University, the third pick in the draft, was absolutely dazzling last night. In Boston, in Beantown, 34 points, 13 for 26 from the field, including 7 rebounds and 3 assists. And his sidekick was all-star Tyrese Maxey. He gets 40. So the backcourt of the 76ers score 74 points on the road to win by 117-116 in Boston, and this shows you. So Edgecombe had the most points since Wilt Chamberlain had 43 when he played for the Philadelphia Warriors back in October 24th, 1959. So what a beginning. NBA basketball, there was nothing like it last night and the day before. Showing the day before on Tuesday night opening, 600 million people in the globe watch NBA basketball in some sort of platform. 600 million, which was a record. So it just shows you that they are absolutely reaching out to people as far as using the NBA different platforms to please watch our game and buy our products. It was great. It's been great. I know I'm being geeked about it right now. However, objectively, when you have good players that perform at a high level and you have the sense of feeling that they connect to the viewing audience, that it's really wonderful to see.
Gordy, what's the list today?
All right, list today. Last night, I was chopping it up with Derek Favors, who, part of the Jazz alumni, came to the Delta Center to sign autographs and to meet and greet the fans. So this morning, I changed my list because I wanted to include Derek Favors on it. This list right now is the all-time franchise leaders in Jazz basketball of most games played in a Jazz uniform. I had the privilege to coach 8 of these guys on this list. Top 10. Number 10, Rudy Gobert. Played 611 games in a Jazz uniform. Number 9, Brian Russell, B. Russ, 628. Number 8, Derek Favors, D. Fave. He played in 644 Jazz games. Number 7, the Jazz own Russian Comet, Andrei Karolinko, played in 681. 6 all-time in Jazz uniform. Greg Ostertag in an even 700. Number 5, our colleague Big T, Thoroughbelly, played in 708 games in a Jazz uniform. Number 4, Dr. Duncanstein, Darrell Griffith, played in 765 games. Number 3, all-time, the late, great Mark Eaton, played in 875. Number 2, all-time in Jazz uniform and most games played is the mailman, Karl Malone, 1,434 games. He only missed 13 games in 18 seasons, but Sean, most of those games are missed absent-wise because he was suspended for fighting the previous game. Number 1, all-time, John Stockton, Iron Man. He played in 1,504 games. What makes it so interesting, he only missed 22 games in 19 years. 17 seasons, he played in every game. 18 times he played in 82 games. In the lockout year in 1999, John played in all 50 games. On the current Jazz, which is amazing how many games this guy played, meaning John Stockton and Karl Malone, top of the list. Presently, who's the current Jazz leader in most games played is George Niang. He has played in 206 contests, and you get the feeling that Keontae George and Ace Bailey someday will be on this list. Thus, this is my list of the most games played. I'm looking forward to adding to it with these new Jazz newcomers.
We'll see who can climb those numbers ladders with the Utah Jazz uniform. Gordy, you're the man. Always appreciate your time.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out. That's
Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA guru. Conversations with Gordy are brought to you by our friends over at Aladdin Industries. We're going to double up here, and we have Dev, Dishing with Dev, next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. It's that time again, dishing with Devin Dampier, QB1 for your University of Utah Utes, joins us here on the Sean O'Connell Show. This conversation is brought to you by Culligan of Salt Lake City. Taste the Culligan difference, and several other sponsors. We'll get to them here in just a second. Dev, how you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling good.
So when I say how you feeling, that's like a greeting. Now I want to really know, how's your body feeling? Because we know you got a little bit touched up, a little bit banged up against BYU. How's the recovery process going?
The recovery process has been well. We got a great training staff. Had a great plan for me through the week. So far, I mean, I'm feeling better by today.
What insight can you give me on that training plan? I know we're not supposed to talk too much about injuries and things like that, but as in terms of full go at practice, limited go at practice, I mean, I know that they don't hit the quarterback anyway during season practices, but do you feel near yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I've been banged up all season. The pain's always there. That's kind of everyone that's been starting to this point. So, football is a violent sport. So, but I'm feeling better for sure by today again.
So, take me back in game, right? And it's obviously, as we always expect, it's a hotly contested game against an in-state rival. They've got a tough defense. They've got a physical defense. And at some point, the bumps and the bruises probably get a little bit more significant. And it looks like there's a decision made at that point where, I don't know if you talk to coach or whatever, say, hey, the QB run game is not necessarily going to be the best idea for me right now. And so it seemed like Bird had to carry that load the rest of the way. How does that process go? You come off the sideline and say, man, I just, whatever's hurting a little bit too much, or was that something you were prepared for going into the game? How was that decision made?
Yeah, just with, just injuries in the past through the season. Also, Bird has been able to get a lot of time during practice to be in there and things like that. So, if I don't feel 100, I definitely give coach that authority to put Bird in because, I would prefer to do what's best for the team. And, quarterback run game was working pretty well. So, and I thought Bird did a good job when he got in there. So, yeah.
Last week we were talking about this, how in every game, even the wins, there's always 2 or 3 plays you wish you could have back or you wish you had done a little bit better. Did any plays in particular against BYU stick out for you in that regard?
Yeah, for sure. When it comes down to those fourth downs again, those were huge plays for us that, we weren't able to get one with the how close the game was together. And just, probably there's something every drive, there's probably a throw you wish you could get back and just give the receiver, a better chance on the ball.
As an offense, when you see the signal, Coach Witt wants you to stay out there on 4th and 1, 4th and 3, even after the missed kick on the 4th and 7, you go back out there. You as an offense, you want that? You want someone to say, no, let's go get this, don't put the kicking unit out there?
Yeah, I think if it's a very, very manageable fourth down, I'm always full go. Again, I think we have a very talented offense, and we have all season. So, it just hurts that, that game didn't go as how we've been all year, just with the fourth down situation. So, we'll get back on schedule.
You had some awareness of how intense this rivalry was going into it, but this is the first time you had an opportunity to actually play in it. Did you learn anything significant, anything new about just how heated it is or just how passionate it is by actually playing in it?
Yeah, it's the real thing. Obviously I felt it in my locker room before and after the game, how much, it meant to us for sure. And, just, you hear the outside noise as well, how much it meant to the state. So just a combine of, how deeply we took the game and how deeply the rest of Utah did. It was a huge game.
Dishing with Deb brought to you by Culligan Water of Salt Lake City. Experience the Culligan difference. America First Credit Union, Polylift, Concrete Lifting and Piering, ARUP Blood Services. Give local, save local. You're asked to do very, very difficult things as a quarterback of a Power 4 football team. I think the thing that would bother me the most is when, after a loss like this one and how tough it is and how much it means to you all, 20 minutes after the game goes final, you gotta leave the locker room, sit down in front of the media, and answer questions. And you and Logan Fano, I thought, handled that duty very admirably after the game. It's not always fun. I'm sure it is a lot more fun after a win than it is after a loss. But just give me your perspective on how you kind of get into the right mindset. You can't just be mad. You can't be cursing. You can't be, probably expressing how you really, truly, deeply feel because it's a media duty. So how do you handle it, Dev?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when you're in that situation, you realize you are speaking for not just yourself, but the program and, your team also. So just being able to go up there with a clean head, it's very difficult to do as well. That game did mean a lot to us, just like every other week. But just the emotional significance of that game, it just makes it a little bit tougher when you get in that room and, just got to talk about reflecting the game.
Okay, so you know this better than I, but obviously it's not only a rivalry game, it's a conference game, it's a conference loss. So the margin for error now, if you all want to make it to the conference championship game, is virtually zero. You got to win out. You got to find a way to get in the right situation in every one of these games moving forward. And yes, you're big favorites against Colorado, but there's always the risk that a game like this BYU loss can beat you twice. How do you, as the quarterback, as one of the lead voices on this team, make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I think that starts off with practice and, just the way you have to flesh it. I mean, simple as that. That's how football works. You get 11, 12 games this season, so, you can't let that 1 week beat you twice. So we're at the point where, we need to move on and we need to show that during practice. That's what the energy and, the time we put into watching film on Colorado already. So, I think we're on the right track of that. And just, me as a leader and, others as leaders also, we've talked and just to continue to, feed our team positive energy and, anything's possible in the Big 12.
Obviously, the offense, you get to look at that performance and only the win or the loss matters, but you guys put up almost 500 yards of offense again, 6 yards a carry in the run game. There are a lot of positives. There's definitely silver linings even in a loss. And for me, the true emergence of Daniel Bray might be the most significant of all those. The young freshman now really in back-to-back games, but especially in this one, proving his worth in this offense. What does that unlock for you as a starting quarterback and for your offense as a whole?
Yeah, I think Daniel Bray's doing a great job. To be, put in the situation he is and to take fully advantage again, the way he's doing it. For me as a quarterback, that opens up a lot. When we put Bray in motion or when the defense is able to fear him getting the ball, a lot more things tend to open up for, receivers and myself. So, to have that component back there with me is pretty great.
Speaking of the receivers, at this point in the season where reps are pretty much game prep reps and, they're limited by NCAA rules and things like that, are you able to develop chemistry with guys who are still growing in the offense, guys who maybe haven't been used a lot this year? Is there room for that in practice or even before and after practice, or do you kind of have to ride with the guys that have been out there already?
Yeah, for sure. Those guys receivers get banged up too. So, and just, throughout the season, just the wear and tear on the body, those other guys get their chances during practice to run with the ones every once in a while. And, those backup guys are just getting as much rest as, the starters also. So, when their chance comes up, I expect the chemistry to be there.
How often in a game do you throw a pass and go, oh, damn it, he's going to have to bail me out on that one because I didn't place it exactly where I want to? I mean, you had a couple of balls in this game that were just well defended. I don't think they were bad throws. They were just well defended. And, JJ came down with a really impressive catch. Simmons came down with a really impressive catch on those. As that ball's leaving your hand and you see kind of how the coverage is playing out and the trajectory of the ball is playing out, do you react in real moments like, oh, my gosh, please catch that?
Again, the defense is, they're able to make plays too. It's a two-sided sport. When the defense makes a play, again, I always, trust my receiver to go attack that ball better than they can. And, for the most part that happens. Sometimes it goes the other way. So, I keep my trust in my receivers, anytime I'm on the field.
What I know of you, and we've been talking for several weeks now, what I know of you, you seem like a remarkably positive guy. I haven't asked you this yet. How do you handle a blatant drop by a wide receiver? That's something that's going to happen in a season, that's going to happen in games. It happens at the NFL level all the way down to Little League. How do you as a quarterback handle it when somebody just flat out drops a pass?
There's kind of two ways, I think about it. I probably play about 60 to 80 snaps a game. So, I'm bound to make a couple of mistakes, just playing that many plays. So, I know what it's like to be told, that something bad happens. So just to keep the positive of it, I think it just lifts your spirits a little bit better than, overly harping on somebody. And, mistakes happen, and it's better to move on. And what can we do better than to dwell on it?
All right, so you already mentioned you've been watching the film for Colorado, and this is a team that Coach Witt sat down and he said, "Look, they're better than their record says they are. We know they have athletes. I think that Coach Prime is a good coach. I know that's not a universally held opinion, but what are you seeing from the University of Colorado that you have to be ready for? Your offense has to be ready for this weekend."
Yeah, again, like you said, they recruit athletes over there, and every position looks like those guys can fly. So, that's huge credit to them. And when they put their talents together, they are competing in these games that they've lost in also. So, again, that's the thing about the Big 12. Every week, got to be ready.
Does it change anything for you? Like, do you even notice it when you're going up against a team that's got a bunch of NFL legends on the staff? That's obviously something that Deion Sanders has done in Boulder. He's hired guys that he played with or he played against. And, my generation of football fans certainly came up watching a lot of those guys. You're a lot younger, so I don't know if Warren Sapp or even Deion Sanders or Marshall Faulk or these guys are impactful for you to be playing in front of. But do you even think about that?
Yeah, I think that is pretty cool, just to play in front of those guys. I don't think about it too much, before the game or anything, but, after, that's huge respect, after the game to shake their hands. And, it's just huge respect for sure.
What's the morale like in the locker room? Because, it's always tough coming off a loss. Not all losses are created equal. A BYU loss and the conversation, the way we talk about it is different than the way that, any other game might be handled. So what is the morale like in the locker room? Is it a heavier lift this week to stay positive and to get people pointed in the right direction?
Yeah, you know what? I think just the way our locker room is, again, I don't think we took the loss easy. Especially, just rival week and, our plans and aspirations. Now we're in a spot where, we know we need a little bit of help from, other teams winning and losing throughout these next couple of weeks, but control what we can control. And, that's the biggest thing, again, that we're starting with is, we can control our attitude, we can control the way we practice, we can control the way we watch film these next couple of weeks. So just put our best foot forward and, hope everything plays out in our favor.
Is there a number in your mind of like, okay, if 100% healthy is perfect, and 80% is probably where you are at week 7 anyway, week 8. Is there a number where your own health percentage is too low for you to feel like you're doing your team a service or you're doing right by your team to go out there? Like, how healthy does Devin Dampier have to be for you to be pounding on Coach Beck's door and pounding on Coach Witt's door and saying, no, I can play in this game?
Yeah, as long as I can go out there and I feel like I can move around at about my full ability, then and just again, we have great coaches as well, so they have the decision to consider to start me also, or to not go that way either. So I'm always going to put my body on the line for my team. They do it for me, so I got everything for them to I ride for my boys.
Lander Barton has to sit out the first half of this Colorado game. His absence, how much will that be felt not only by the team and the defense, but by your offense?
Yeah, Lander, again, he's a huge piece of our team, huge piece of our defense. So, his spot's hard to fulfill for sure, but that just gives the opportunity for our other defense guys, to step up and in ways they can. I fully believe that the next guy's always ready, but we also got other defensive captains and leaders on that side of the ball that do a great job of picking up the energy just like Lander does.
I can't believe we made it this far into a season without me really asking this question, but the NBA season started last night, and hockey's in full swing. Do you watch anything besides football during football season?
Yeah, I try not to overly do my mind of football. I think that's it's a big part of life. That's the reason why college coaches recruit people that do other things than just football. There's more to life. There's more entertainment out there. So, yeah, I mean, every once in a while, I find myself being able to have that free time to watch some.
What is your favorite sport besides football to watch?
I'm normally a big soccer guy.
Soccer?
Yeah, probably soccer or basketball.
Soccer is – that was the last answer I thought I was going to hear from soccer. Are you secretly European? What's happening here?
It kind of started off just little, like recess. We used to just play soccer every day at recess, and I love playing it. And then Messi and Ronaldo and all those guys. That's when they were somewhat in their prime. So I got to watch soccer when it was really really at its peak. So yeah, just something I really enjoyed.
Do you have a club you support, or you watch the players that you like?
Yeah, I tend to be every sport. I'm big on players right now.
All right.
Yeah.
That's how you could tell Devin is a young man in his 20s. That's just how it goes. Wow. That's Dishing with Dev, brought to you by Culligan Water of Salt Lake City. Experience the Culligan difference. America First Credit Union, Polylift Concrete Lifting and Piering, ARUP Blood Services, Give Local, Save Local. Dev, before I let you go, it's an unfair thing for you to have to do, but send a message to the Utah fans that are feeling discouraged after losing 3 straight to BYU, after the second loss in the Big 12 season, and feeling like maybe it's not going to live up to what we hoped it would be this year. Just give me a message for the Utah fans that are doubting right now.
Yeah, those guys, you guys' energy, the energy we feel from our fans, that also uplifts us, or just can bring us down also. So just to continue to keep the vibes positive and believe in us, and that truly goes a long way for us. So just let's look at the positives. Let's look at what we can control, and we have another week to play football. So let's focus on the game coming up Saturday.
It'll be Saturday night at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Dev, we'll see you up there. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, always. Appreciate you.
Dishing with Dev, Devin Dampier, starting quarterback for your University of Utah football team, in remarkably good spirits and has the exact right attitude to move on from a very tough loss to BYU. We'll unpack it. We'll talk more about it. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Daily Dump brought to you by Valley Plumbing. We'll go through some stories from the sports world today. Utah Jazz smashed the Clippers last night in their opener for the season, home opener as well. 129-108. A full-strength Clipper squad against a full-strength Jazz squad that got 50-plus points off the bench. We talked about that with Gordy Chiesa, that they're going to play a lot of, they're going to go deep in the rotation.
Yeah, Will Hardy said in postgame, he told us in postgame that they're going to play 10 guys. He said that about 5 times just casually. He said, if we're going to play 10 guys, if we're, since we're playing 10 guys, that kind of way. So he's expected to really use all of his players available to him on the bench. And Ace Bailey was on a minutes restriction. That's why he only got 20 minutes. Will actually told us in pregame that he was on a 15-minute minutes restriction, so he got about 5 more minutes of action. So Ace is going to play a lot more as the year goes along. He's been sick for about a week. That's the reason for the minutes restriction.
Sick, or is it knee tendonitis? What's the story?
Well, the knee tendonitis thing is not part of why he missed last night. It was an illness. Right. It was an illness that he had for about a week, is what Will told us. So, and he had one bucket, but OC, he dribbled once from before. He caught the ball right before half court, dribbled once, and then dunked it. He did travel. I counted the steps, but it was still amazing.
He's a monster, okay?
The length is incredible. Length and the stride.
So the Utah Jazz, part of that win, the biggest part of the win, was Walker Kessler leading all scorers in the game. Huge monster night for Walker Kessler.
2 for 2 from 3, OC. He's a sharpshooter now. 6 of 8 from the free throw line, which, as you know, and Jazz fans know, has been maybe the biggest weakness in his game is free throw shooting. The stroke is looking nice in one game in anyway.
All right. Walker Kessler maybe drawing some inspiration on how to be a scarier player. See what I did there? Because I guess he's a brand new Stephen King fan.
You're reading Stephen King? You're reading Stephen King?
I am. Yeah, I just ordered The Stand. I was going to read the Dark Tower series first, but I've heard that The Stand kind of ties in, so I'm going to read that first.
Is it Halloween related? Or just
no, so I read Pet Sematary first, really liked it. And then my dad is a big Stephen King fan. He used to read The Shining. Read The Shining. It's probably my favorite book. And I just finished Salem's Lot. I liked it a lot. Not as much as The Shining, but I'm going to try to go away from his horror genre and kind of go into this fantasy genre, I guess, because I love The Hobbit. I love Lord of the Rings. And so I'm excited to read it. Heard good things. Right. There was also apparently there's some weird read order, all the books tying in. Did you really? How did you recommend it? Did you really? Wow. See, I thought I was just gonna read The Stand and then do the.
You can.
Yeah, the 7 Dark Tower. Yeah, that's probably what I did.
Don't hurt him, Kev.
That's Sarah Todd,
which should surprise no one, especially
he's a big reader.
Especially if you remember, if you listen to her grievance about the original Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, she's a hater on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Apparently not a hater on Stephen King.
Yeah, she loves Stephen King. She's also like Walker Kessler, and you and I loves Tolkien as well. So yeah, I think Walker Kessler, we just learned, kind of a man after your own heart. OC, a sportsman, but also very well read. Loves the fantasy genre. Are you a Stephen King guy?
I'm. What I have read of Stephen King, I have liked. I don't necessarily love a lot of the film adaptations from his books, but yeah, love The Green Mile. Actually loved Dreamcatcher. Thought that was a really good book. Was an absolutely miserable movie. Terrible, terrible movie. But here's the thing. If you're going to start getting really into Stephen King, do you realize how many books you have to read?
I'm very ignorant on Stephen King, other than I have heard of Dark Tower. I've heard of the ones that have made it, almost all of them that have made in the movies. So yeah, I don't know how expansive his library is.
So his most recent book came out this year. It's a collaboration with Maurice Sendak, who wrote Where the Wild Things Are. And I think it's a children's book. It's Hansel and Gretel. It looks like it's illustrated. But he also released Never Flinch, which is a Stephen King, I have no idea. I guess it's a novel by Stephen King. If you want to read the entire biography of Stephen King, the entire okay, so filmography is all the movies you've been in.
Is it a bibliography? Is that
that's what I'm looking for. The bibliography of Stephen King. That's 93 books long.
93. And then you've got, like, the short stories within some of those books that have been made into movies. Like, I learned after watching 1408 that that's not a book. It's just a short story in one of his books, right? The one about the haunted hotel room. So, yeah, you've got all those. If you're only familiar with the movies, like, those are with a lot of those. Some of those movies are just short stories within his larger books there.
I mean, he's been publishing a movie or two, a book or two since 1970, basically.
Yeah, this keeps going. Red Sox fan too, Stephen King.
A lot of people are bothered by the fact that he's gotten very political late in his life, but
haven't we all?
One of the best, most decorated authors in the American fiction history. Cujo, of course, an absolute classic. Another one that the movie could do no justice to. Just really, really interesting that Walker Kessler, because the best Stephen King books. Walker Kessler was born in 2002.
Yeah,
the best Stephen King books came out 30 years before he was born.
Well, I mean, he mentioned in that clip there, which, by the way, you can watch on our YouTube channel at ESPN 700 Sports Utah. He mentioned his dad is the one who kind of pointed him towards Stephen. Recently, is pointed him towards Stephen King. I love it. I also love how he's made it sound like it's very recent, and then he listed like 7 books that he's read of his. It's like, okay, you didn't just do that over the summer, right? You've been doing it for a while.
Was there no follow-up question on how fast of a reader Walker Kessler is?
Yeah, come on, Sarah Todd.
Because there are those people.
Ben Anderson was the one who did the original question. Come on, guys.
There are those people who are like, yeah, I read like 3 books a week. And I'm like,
maybe that's him. I don't know.
And look, I know that the NBA schedule is demanding, but it's not like he's putting in 10 hours a day.
Especially in the off season, it's
making license plates in a prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like does he just work out and then read books?
Yeah. Go eat at Waffle House.
All right, Walker.
Yeah,
like your style, Walker Kessler.
So it was also interesting to me, and we can move off of this after this thought. But because people who think of Stephen King, you think all he does is horror. So it was interesting to hear him say, "I'm staying away from the horror part of Stephen King novels and looking more at the fantasy." But as he said that, like, he definitely has ones that are more fantasy thrillers than just horror, right? Like,
for sure.
Yeah. So you can certainly lean into that side of it while avoiding the stuff that gives you the heebie-jeebies, right?
All right, you and I didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday. I think it is an important story. It's not as lighthearted as Walker Kessler getting into Stephen King books, but it's a fascinating dynamic because Mike Trout, yes, that Mike Trout, greatest player in Angels history.
Fisherman. Oh, wait, no, baseball player, of course.
He testified against the team effectively in the Skaggs family. Tyler Skaggs passed away of an accidental drug overdose. He had fentanyl-laced oxycodone that was provided to him by a team employee. And the family is seeking liability compensation to the tune of $118 million for the wrongful death of Tyler Skaggs. And it's obviously just a really sensitive and terrible situation for teammates, for people in the organization, for the family, most of all. And Mike Trout was asked to testify, or I don't know if you can be subpoenaed in civil cases. I really don't know how it works. But he testified, and he testified that, yeah, we knew that there was an issue here. We knew that this
Eric K was the trainer, was a member of the training staff who's in prison for giving Skaggs those drugs, right? And so this is a civil case for wrongful death, as you said. He testified that they knew Eric K had a drug problem, basically.
Which, of course, the case against the Angels here for the Skaggs family is that you had somebody with a history of drug abuse and drug problems and drug-seeking behavior around the clubhouse in a position of power and influence.
On the training staff, able to give pain medication. Yeah.
And that was malpractice, that is some kind of malfeasance. And unfortunately, what matters is that Skaggs is no longer with us. That's really, really terrible. And Mike Trout and everyone else in this organization has talked about, on some level, the responsibility you feel when it's somebody the guilt that can be associated with being a survivor, but also with perhaps feeling like you could have stepped in and done something. And now the family is like, Angels, you didn't do enough to protect my son, my brother, my whoever, from himself and from the addiction that this other person had in your organization, and also that Skaggs dealt with. So Mike Trout obviously is the most important Angel on the team. He's the most important Angel probably in history. And he was in a position this week to where he was testifying effectively against his organization. Yeah. In a case where he lost a friend, lost a teammate.
Yeah, never heard of this kind of situation before. There's been plenty of lawsuits involving athletes and teams over the years that I've been following sports and now covering sports. I've never heard of a star player having to be put in a position to like you said, effectively testify against the team that they still play for. But so just a unbelievable situation that Mike Trout was in. Good for him for telling his truth about it, even though he and his reps probably weighed a lot of risk that could come to him, given that he is still employed by the Angels. We also do know, that being said, we know that the MLB Players Association is very powerful. So he's probably been assured that he's going to be fine from his career standpoint. Of course, another team would pick him up too if he wasn't. But this just an unbelievable situation. I didn't know this till I was kind of looking up Tyler Skaggs, and obviously the Bees are the AAA affiliate of the Angels. I went, I wonder how many games Skaggs played for the Bees. OC. He pitched a handful of games for the Bees. He also pitched a couple games for the Orem Owls, which I did not know. So obviously a small local angle to this too, is a former local minor league pitcher. And Tyler Skaggs is the one who passed away. What was that, 2019? Maybe a little bit before that. And yeah, as you said, the main thing is no, whatever the result of this is, it's not going to bring Tyler Skaggs back. But you do just hope that for his family's sake, that they get what they need out of this, right? Whether it goes their way or not, they at least get in some small way, get the closure, get the damages, whatever it is that they need.
The other thing about this is Trout at one point in the clubhouse, the guy who ended up providing the fentanyl-laced drug to Skaggs that resulted in the accidental death. He used to be in the clubhouse. In baseball clubhouses, you hear this all the time. It's like there's a lot of downtime, so guys are doing a lot of the crazy stuff. And this K guy used to come in and be like, "Hey, what do you dare me to do? They would do this thing where it'd be like, all right, I'll give you $100 if you
Do something crazy.
eat that cockroach that we found on the floor. And
Fear factor stuff, yeah.
they would do a bunch of that. Like this guy who's an employee of the team, working in the training room, would come in and just be like, hey, okay, take this duct tape and rip off your eyebrow, whatever. And Mike Trout was one of the guys that would come up with these dares and, pay him to do these things in like these jackass type stunts in the clubhouse until somebody else said, hey, man, stop giving him money. And Mike Trout was warned, like, don't give this guy money anymore to do stupid stuff because that money's being used for not good purposes. And so, again, this is all from the testimony that Trout was asked about. Trout was like, oh, his mind immediately went to drugs. And then he spoke with this K individual, spoke with him and said, hey, you got kids at home. You got to figure it out. According to Trout, he said, if you need anything, let me know. And according to Kay, Trout offered to pay for his rehab, which, I mean, Trout said he didn't recall offering to pay for the rehab, but he did say, if you need anything, let me know. And that could have been interpreted, I guess, as something like that. But
hey, I need rehabs, and you told me to let you know.
But in any case, I mean, you had this altercation, you had this confrontation regarding potential drug abuse that was one of your most high-profile, prominent individuals in your clubhouse, in your locker room, was made aware by another employee, like this guy has a drug thing, so don't give him money anymore. And then he still worked there, and that drug thing ended up being something that contributed to the loss of a pitcher on your team, of a friend of others in the clubhouse, of, a valued member of your community. That it's a really, really tough situation for the Angels organization. And now this legal process has on some level pitted your best player against your front office. Even though I think it's the right thing to do because this is much bigger than baseball, it just shows you the magnitude of something like this.
Yeah, the Angels have been a mess on the field for a while, and this just further reminds us what kind of mess this situation has been since, unfortunately, we lost Tyler Skaggs, like I said, 6-7 years ago. It's beyond more. It's been beyond a bad product on the field for the Angels. Absolutely.
He was the Eric K. Yeah, it was 2019, and Eric K. back in 2022 was sentenced to 22 years in federal prison for providing the controlled substance that resulted in the accidental death of Tyler Skaggs.
Mike Trout
at 27 years of age.
Mike Trout said, "I suppose some of my tax money is going towards your rehab now, but that's I didn't. I'm not paying for beyond that." Oh man, terrible situation. Like I said, the bottom line is I hope that the Skaggs family gets what they need out of this, whatever the result is of this legal case.
Bad deal, man. Don't deal drugs, kids. Don't take drugs, kids. If you're dealing with any kind of drug temptation or situation, seek help because it goes downhill fast, and especially with fentanyl on the market now and other substances being enhanced, quote-unquote enhanced, or cut with fentanyl, it is a deadly, deadly drug, and people still don't have a good grasp on how serious the dosages are, how dangerous the dosing is with something like fentanyl, so just stay away from it, please. Lots left to get to on the Sean O'Connell Show. Eric Weddle's actually going to join us at 1:30 today instead of 1 o'clock. He texted, we got a PGA Tour leaderboard update on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sal Vulcano bringing the Everything's Fine tour to the Eccles Theater October 25th. Do not miss the last with Sal from Impractical Jokers. Tickets are available at salvulcanocomedy.com. Details on the show, times, and everything else, ESPN700sports.com. And we're actually giving away another pair of tickets today. We talked with Sal last week, and he said that he's been doing stand-up comedy longer than he's been doing the Impractical Jokers thing, which is, I should have known that, I guess. But if you have a chance, if you don't have Colorado, Utah tickets, Everything's Fine tour at Eccles Theater with Sal Vulcano. Time for a PGA Tour leaderboard update. The Bank of Utah Championship at Black Desert Resort down in James's old stomping grounds. Experience the future of performance with Callaway. New shaping materials. The AI 10X Smart Face delivers up to 8 yards extra distance and even more forgiveness available now at Uinta Golf. Some Utahns competing at the Bank of Utah Championship at Black Desert Resort. What's the update, James?
Yeah, there's 5 Utahns in the field, including friend of Utah Golf Radio and Paul Pugmire, Tommy Sharp from Golf the Round. So that's pretty cool. Real local guy, really local guy. 3 former BYU players, a guy who was a child prodigy who ended up going to ASU, but from Farmington, Utah, Preston Summerhays, from a well-known golf family here. Zach Blair, of course. No Tony Finau, though. He's not one of those 5. But anyway, as you'd expect, a PGA Tour event in Utah, plenty of Utah representatives. And all of these guys, by the way, all the guys, the 3 that went to BYU, also from Utah. So not just guys who came from out of state and played at BYU. So anyway, great representation from the state of Utah. I'll update you on all of those during this update here. But Thorbjorn Olesen is your leader at 6 under. He's through his opening round. He's the only one in the clubhouse, one of a few people in the clubhouse, I should say. Sitting at the top of the leaderboard, though, there. Grayson Sigg and, how about this name, Cameron Champ are both tied for second at 5 under. Paul Peterson is among a group of folks tied for 5th at 4 under. Rounding out the top 10 are players like Hayden Buckley and Rico Hui, and more at 3 under. Some of those local players, a lot of them have not teed off yet. Kihei Akina from BYU is one that has, unfortunately, rough start to his tournament. He is 5 over at this moment at the Bank of Utah Championship at the Black Desert. The rest have not teed off, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to check on one other. Yeah, they have yet to tee off. So Zach Blair, Tommy Sharp, Patrick Fishburne, Preston Summerhays, they're going to tee off later in the day. Hopefully they have a better start than Kihei Akina had of our local players. That's your PGA Tour leaderboard update from the Black Desert Resort Bank of Utah Championship, OC.
Brought to you by Uinta Golf. Check them out right now. The Callaway AI 10X Smart Face delivers 8 yards of extra distance on your drives. And, of course, even more forgiveness, which is all I'm really looking for.
This has got to be the last tournament on the PGA Tour schedule, though, right, OC? Like, I don't remember it going this – I don't remember the PGA Tour schedule going into October, late October, especially in a Ryder Cup year. They usually get it all out of the way before Ryder Cup. This has been maybe I'm completely off base. I don't clearly neither of us clearly follow the PGA Tour as closely as many others do, but this seems like late in the year to be playing golf. Although in Southern Utah you can certainly play this late in the year, so why not?
Did you see, James, Joe Flacco talking in the press conference about eating alone at the hotel bar?
No.
Did you see his comments? Okay, so I should have had you pull these things up because I'm paraphrasing here. But effectively, Joe Flacco was talking to the media, and you know he's in Cincinnati. He hasn't brought his family with him because his kids are now of like a school age where they're not just going to dump out of school because their dad's at a new organization for the 10th time. So he's by himself. He's 15 years older than a lot of his teammates. And he was talking about how he was sitting at the hotel bar having a meal and told the media, and he got a good laugh out of this, that he used to feel sorry for those people when he'd see someone eating alone at a hotel bar. And he's like, now I realize that guy was in heaven. And it got a ton of response to social media comments. The idea, like, look, eating alone at a restaurant sucks, I think. Joe Flacco likes it because, you know, he's probably surrounded by people all the time. He doesn't get a lot of alone time. He doesn't get a lot of situations where he doesn't have to talk to anyone. That's parenting life when you have multiple kids, certainly. But when you're a quarterback, everyone's got something for your ear all the time. And so apparently Joe Flacco appreciates the solace. I am not to this point in my life yet where I enjoy eating alone at a restaurant. I enjoy eating alone just fine if I'm at a place where it's kind of normal to eat alone. Like, I guess the exception would be at an airport restaurant or an airport, you know, whatever, because nobody expects you to have a companion there.
Yeah, unless you're traveling with somebody, you don't typically see someone you know really well, like, oh, let's have lunch. We're in the same terminal.
That's right.
Sometimes you do, but not typically.
And in that case, it's what a great treat it is because it's always unexpected, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not to the point in my life yet where I'm just like, let me go sit at the Olive Garden bar and have a tour of Italy on my own.
The amount of because of our unique alcohol laws in this state, the amount of I worked at a restaurant, as most people did at some point in their lives. My wife did as well, and the amount of stories that I saw firsthand, and she saw, and other people I know saw of people who like go to the restaurant bar. They just want to drink, but they have to order.
You have to order food.
They have to order food because of their laws in this state.
Oh, people would go nuts.
So it's like, okay, give me chips and salsa.
Yeah.
And then they don't eat the chips and salsa. They just drink whatever they came there to drink. So it's anyway. Plenty of those guys who just go to the Olive Garden, the Applebee's, whatever, the Chili's, and just sit at the bar and eat alone. Yeah, I'm certainly not at that point yet either, OC. I will say this. I wonder if part of why he felt really good about that, it feels really good doing that now, is that he doesn't have to feel like he needs to be part of the conversation. When you're eating with a bunch of people, sometimes you get that social anxiety where it's like, oh, I have to have a story. I have to have something to contribute to the atmosphere here, to the storytelling that's going on. And when you're eating alone, like, you can just eat. So maybe that's part of it too, where he's like, okay, I don't have any of that social anxiety. I don't have to try to be buddy with my teammates that I don't know very well because I'm new here and I'm like 15, 20 years older than them. This is cool just to eat alone. I wonder if that's part of it.
Could be. So the question I have, 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports. Eating alone in public, eating alone at a restaurant, eating alone at the hotel bar. Is that for you or is that not for you? It's still not for me. I don't like it. I don't mind.
You're way too social to be eating alone.
I guess. I don't know. It just.
I feel like occasionally I'm okay. I don't do that.
What do you do with
very
your
often,
hands?
But occasionally I'm okay with that. Like we have opportunities. Jazz games last night. We get the Toyota Club wristbands with our media credential, and I couldn't find. I typically eat with the Jazz beat writers. We're usually just around each other all the time. I was way too hungry to wait for them to be ready to go down. So I'm just gonna go eat. I didn't mind eating alone, public, sitting at a table, eating the buffet type stuff they have at the Toyota Club. So
yeah, that's kind of a situation where most people would expect that you have a companion of sorts.
Yeah, because you go to a game with somebody,
right, yeah.
Or in our case, you're covering a game. You know the people very well who are also covering the game.
The club is fantastic.
It's amazing. But just last night I experienced this. Like this isn't bad.
All right.
I don't know. I did have the thought. I'm like, Hopefully no one thinks that I'm a weirdo just sitting at one table by myself, but then I got over that and enjoyed my meal.
Well, you know what, I've decided, I told you the story of the season tickets, the one loaner seat that's next to our season tickets for the Utah Mammoth games. I've decided
going to a game alone, yeah.
I've decided that every time there's a person in that seat from now on, I'm going to engage them in conversation and get the story. I need to know, like,
what are you doing here alone?
How did this end up as your seat? I really want to know.
And then we're going to make it a segment, and we will name names.
I'll get phone numbers, and we'll bring that person on. Tell everyone why you were a loser alone at the game last night.
And then you're going to do this whenever you're at a movie theater, too. You're going to pick out the people sitting alone. Why are you here?
Movie by yourself, another one of those things. When I was younger, I was like, you have to be a lunatic to go to a movie by yourself. I no longer feel that way because if you're a parent of young children, you have two options. You either overpay for some babysitter to come and sit there and watch a movie at your house with your kids. You're not getting your money's worth, right? And it's 3 hours at least. Right? If you want to eat beforehand, you got to pay a babysitter for like 4 hours. Or you can just work it out with your spouse and be like, hey,
I'll go tonight, you go tomorrow.
It's $5 movie night. You go see that movie you wanted to see by yourself, and next week I'll do the same thing. Or tomorrow night I'll do the same thing. Now I think it's glorious. Now I think it's like that's a win right there.
I think that's the gateway to eating alone in a restaurant, OC. I think you're on the path.
The exception is if you go to a movie that is like very definitely a date movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Then you're a weirdo.
Rom-com or something. Yeah.
Then you're a weirdo if you're sitting there by yourself. Also,
that's when you just have to be obnoxious and laugh your head off, and just make people look at you like, what? And then, this guy's alone and he's just loving this.
There's two times when being the alone person at the movie theater is weird. One, when it's an obvious date movie. Well, I guess three. If it's a kid's movie, get out of there. Don't do it. Get psycho. If it's a movie that's been out for a long time, so there's like 6 people in the movie theater, and you sit way too close to one of those couples, or there's a group of 3 and you're like 2 seats away, or you sit immediately in the row behind them. No. If it's an empty movie theater, space yourself out accordingly.
Social distancing, people.
Yes. Think of COVID times a million, all right? If there's a couple in one corner, first of all, the couple, if there's only one romantic couple, they get the back row. You know why, okay?
Give them the row.
If you're the solo person there, just get as far away from the people who have friends as possible. Don't be the one who's like, ha, 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 and then you look over to see if they're laughing too, and then they have to awkwardly make eye contact with you. And you're like, yeah, pretty good joke. Don't make it weird. All right. Speaking of movies, we have an advanced screening 4-pack. 877-353-0700. We're going to talk in our next segment about what's going on with Chauncey Billups, all right? And the situation where the NBA has multiple figures being arrested in a federal case. 877-353-0700 if you want tickets to an advanced screening to Begonia, which is a new thriller that's getting rave reviews. Advanced screening will be October 28th. A sneak peek 4-pack if you could tell me where Chauncey Billups played his college basketball. 877-353-0700. 4 tickets to Begonia advanced screening October 28th. Eric Weddle's going to join us at 1:30. I have destroyed the clock once again. But when we come back, we'll talk about the cloud hanging over the NBA's opening nights with this arrest in a federal case. Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups. Why are they being busted? It's a Hollywood movie. We'll get to it on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show continues here on ESPN 700 at 92.1 FM. The biggest story in the sports world today is not the Utah Jazz blowing up the Clippers to start their season. It's not a reaction to Victor Wembanyama's dominant performance as his San Antonio Spurs won the Battle of Texas against the Dallas Mavericks. And the unibrow, did you hear the unibrow's response to how you defend Victor Wembanyama? He said you just pray he misses.
He did not against AD. Did you see the one in the, I believe it was third quarter, maybe late second quarter, where he dribbled out the shot clock, basically the whole shot clock, and then got an and one with an awkward, somehow like hitting the arm, super awkward release, falling down from like 20 feet away, and AD just like threw his hands up. It's just like amazing.
We should, whatever your superstition is, just throw some salt or burn some sage. Figure out a way to put your positive energy towards Victor Wembanyama staying healthy. Because, look, the Jazz they had a great night last night. They're not going to be a great team this year. I want to see Victor Wembanyama stay healthy, man. This kid is a unicorn, alien, special angel sent from basketball heaven.
We need to see him in the postseason, too. Like, we need meaningful basketball from Victor Wembanyama. And, listen, I know that if you're a Jazz fan of a certain age, and I'm in that age range, you've never had much love for the Spurs because they took what the Jazz did in the 90s and then started dominating the Jazz and the rest of the NBA for 20 years in the Tim Duncan era. But I don't know, I've been shocked within myself to be at how much I'm like pulling for the Spurs now because of that. And it's because this guy is incredible.
Well, as soon as the Jazz are in a position to take something that the Spurs have, I will be all in on hating the Spurs. But you're in different categories right now. Yeah. Even though your teams are similar ages, you're just in different categories right now. So if you want to watch good basketball, crazy basketball, fun basketball, the San Antonio Spurs gave you that. But the biggest story in the NBA this morning is that Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, arrested in separate but related gambling probes. Now, if I'm Chauncey Billups, I'm actually pretty upset that my name is being lumped in with the same thing that Terry Rozier's name is lumped in, because what Terry Rozier was arrested for, and he's been placed on leave, as has Chauncey Billups, by the NBA, what he's been arrested for is like integrity of the game type threats. We're talking about sports gambling, insider information. We're talking about wagers being placed on the results of either player performance or games themselves. And this is an age-old question about how gambling should be handled in sports, how gambling is a threat or not a threat to sports, and that conversation has ramped up drastically over the years. You've heard me talk about it many, many times. We'll have to continue to talk about it because incidents like this are not going to be isolated. This is not going to be the only time we hear about Terry Rozier or a similar level of player getting involved with either the wrong people or the wrong situation, or spearheading an effort themselves to try and maximize earnings or just cash in on an opportunity to use the now ubiquitous nature of sports gambling to enrich themselves. That is a different conversation than what Chauncey Billups has been arrested for. Chauncey Billups and others are accused of running a highly coordinated, highly sophisticated, illicit poker ring to extort money out of through poker, to steal money from high rollers that want to be at games with NBA coaches, players, professional athletes, big dogs. And it's associated, these poker games, not only with the front-facing cards, is the cool nickname given to guys like Chauncey Billups, who are, I guess, the reason why, Your dad's insurance broker buddy wants to be at the poker game.
Is that the slang for the draw to these poker games?
Yeah,
front-facing card. Okay.
In the investigation, that's what
they
the
said.
terminology was being used. The front-facing card.
All right.
That's Chauncey Billups. And then behind the scenes, they have allegedly rigged automatic shuffling machines.
This part's unbelievable. This is the movie part of it.
And X-ray equipped poker tables that can see what cards you have while your cards are face down on the table.
And also maybe cause some health problems for you later. The X-ray technology.
You don't
My
want
goodness.
you don't want X-ray machines under your table. Okay? Maybe they provided a courtesy and they were just like, hey,
here's a lead vest.
Wear some lead underpants while you come to this poker game. And these guys are like, all right, yeah, I'll find a way.
This doesn't deter me at all.
We talked about this in the first segment of the show. If you are a rich person, if you just sold your business, if you're like a high-profile lawyer, if you're one of these Utah County tech bros that's got 4 Tesla trucks and too much money coming in, and suddenly you start getting invited to poker games with professional athletes, it's probably not because they want to hang out with you. It's probably not because they think you're cool. Just give yourself an opportunity to maybe find an excuse out of these things, because in the Chauncey Billups allegations, there are 4 mafia crime families associated with these games.
And you just not all of these rigged poker games have that as the bankrollers, as the behind everything, but you just never know.
You never know. Well, imagine, dude. Imagine you're out at a Jazz game, okay? You're in the Toyota Club, because that's where the people with the more expensive price point ticket end up being, right? You're somebody, and you're just like, I just sold my insurance business to like Allstate, to one of these big companies, and I got a couple $1 million in the bank, and I'm stoked, and we got the mommy makeover for my wife, and I got this new Tesla truck, and I'm feeling really good.
Now I got Toyota Club tickets.
And somebody's like, hey, man, do you like playing poker? Yeah, I love playing poker. Hey, we got a poker game going on up in Park City next weekend. Why don't you show up? Okay, that's a great idea. Who's going to be there? Well, Michael Jordan's going to be there. Charles Barkley's going to be there. Darren Williams is going to be there.
You might see MJ and Charles get in a fight.
They'd love to meet you. She's like, oh, really? Every one of us as a sports fan is going to be like, awesome, that would be really fun. I'm going to go up there. Hey, here's the downside. It's a $100,000 buy-in. No problem. I just sold my business. I can handle that right now. You go up there. You sit down. You're like, oh, my gosh. Michael Jordan, nice to meet you. Oh, my gosh. Charles Barkley, nice to meet you. Oh, who invited Tiger Woods? Oh, my goodness. Tiger, so nice to meet you. I'm Joe from Joe's Family Insurance. Hi, what's your name?
I'm equally as famous as you.
Your name is Tony the Tooth Gambino? All right, how do you know these professional athletes? Don't worry about it. You're just sitting down there playing poker like, well, whatever.
Your nickname is the Tooth?
That's really interesting. Why do they call you that? I notice you have just normal teeth. Oh, you collect other people's teeth. Wow, interesting.
Are you a dentist?
That's weird. There's going to be a movie made about this. Chauncey Billups.
Don't be part of the subject of the movie.
And the allegations are that Chauncey Billups and everyone else, aside from the marks, aside from the rich guys that were invited to play and were just excited to be there hanging out with the professional athletes, that they all knew, that Chauncey knew that these were rigged card games. And that guy who maybe he invited, or maybe some middleman was like, put that together, he knew that person was going to lose money. And up to, $7 million is the amount being thrown around right now, which, by the way, I don't know Chauncey's spending habits, but Chauncey is still getting paid well to be a coach, or was up until today, being paid well to be a coach. And he has an entire NBA's worth of career earnings, NBA career worth of earnings. I should
Spent
say.
Spent a while as one of ESPN's lead NBA analysts as well. They pay you pretty well at the national level for that sort of thing. So he's got plenty probably saved up from those days playing in that time, and now he's been getting a lot of money coming in as a coach.
As a player, Chauncey Billups made $106 million.
Yeah.
Now, I know that professional athletes get themselves caught up in crazy stuff all the time, and you make the wrong investment here, you give too much money to your brother there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, that
you play too many of these poker games.
That money I thought I had is gone now, right? But this is wild that we're talking about we've had 2 days worth of NBA regular season basketball, and the lead story is something out of Rounders starring Matt Damon.
Yeah, and then the other part of this that's lumped into the same story, part of the same federal investigation, not near as cinematic, but as you've been outlining all show, OC, much probably worse consequences for sports when you talk about Terry Rozier, former player and coach Damon Jones, and probably others feeding inside information about injuries or whatever else to bettors, to sports books, whoever, to then drive up, to then, cause a bunch of people to bet a certain way. The Damon Jones thing was a particular game that he knew LeBron James was sitting out for, so he said, yeah, bet the under or whatever.
Yeah, well, we talked about this with Gordy, and Gordy, it's not like the NBA is blind to these things and doesn't know that young players are going to be caught up, that doesn't know that there's going to be characters lurking around. The legalization of gambling, of sports gambling, has in a lot of ways mitigated some of this because it takes some of the teeth out of these crime organizations that used to be your only outlet for gambling. And now you have DraftKings, you have FanDuel, you have these legal online sports books that when there is crazy betting, they investigate, they get the super sleuths on it and just like, hey, why did somebody decide in, Salt Lake City, Utah, that James Peterson was going to score fewer than 6 points in this game? And also,
he always scores more than 6 points.
We got
What's
some
going
people
on
in
there?
Milwaukee and New Orleans and Phoenix all betting the same thing within 20 minutes of each other. Like, they've got AI on this. I mean, it's really hard to manipulate the legal sports betting stuff. One thing that you can use is information that is available to you but not to the public, and it sounds like that's where the other side of this is. There are so many people involved. Gordy Chiesa said, he used to just kind of like be non-committal. Hey, someone would ask, is so-and-so going to play? I don't know. He'd have to say, I don't know, because if you say yes or you say no, they might be trying to get that information for the wrong reason.
Smart man, Gordy Chiesa. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. I do not want our sports, our pro sports, college sports that we love, to be turned into pro wrestling, as an analogy, where it's just all rigged. I mean, parts of it we already feel are rigged in certain ways. We don't need it to actually be that way because players and coaches are feeding information to bad actors, and then they're using it to mess with the integrity of the game. And that was always the thing that a lot of us question when these sports leagues started getting in bed with these gambling companies, and when just almost every state has legalized it now. That was what we were all going, wait a minute, what about these things that could probably happen when we do this? And they said, and they're secure in the fact that what you just brought up, we'll find, if something like that ever happens, we'll find it quickly, we'll mitigate it very quickly. And yeah, to a certain extent that's happened, but also at what cost, I guess, is still the question I'm asking.
Pro sports are insulated, I think, in some ways. Collegiate sports, I think it's a lot more problematic in collegiate sports, especially now that you would think, oh, well, NIL opportunities make it so that fewer people on these rosters need the money. I actually think it's a scarier situation now because there are more guys than ever before who are sitting there watching their teammates live a lifestyle that they have no hope of living because that guy is on an NIL deal. That guy is a millionaire as a 19, 20-year-old. And you, where, 20 years ago, you were all kind of in the same boat. The scholarship guys had it better than the walk-on guys. But even that, like, scholarship guys weren't exactly flush unless we're talking about Miami and
the bagman.
SEC, the bagman type. Like, we're not. I'm talking about the average college football player, not a Lendale White situation. Now the average college football program, at least in the Power Four, has multiple millionaires on the roster that are still in the same locker room as the guy who's maybe got 50 grand coming in, 25 grand coming in, 100 grand coming in. And that guy, I think, is probably more susceptible to like some of this than ever before, than even before it was totally illegal for anybody to have money. But that might just be me. All right, we got to take a break so we can get to Eric Weddle, the Utah football legend, longtime NFL veteran, and head coach of the Rancho Bernardo Broncos, joins us next to talk about the fallout of the Holy War and how this Utah team bounces back against Colorado. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show, and we welcome in Eric Weddle, the Utah football legend. E-Dub, how are you?
What's the word, babe?
You tell me,
What is
man.
the word?
How are we feeling about recovering from a loss? This is a two-part question because, of course, I mean that for the Utes, but also I don't know how much you want to talk about it. Your Rancho Bernardo Broncos took the first L of the season.
They did, and you got to do the little things, and it actually coincides with a lot of what happened in the Utah BYU game. Pre-snap penalties hurt us. Not converting on fourth downs hurt us. A missed field goal and a fake field goal, both that weren't successful, hurt us. And you don't match the enthusiasm and physicality of your opponent until the second half. When you're down 17-7, it's a long road back. And we fought. I'm proud of our boys. We scored a touchdown to make it a 3-point game with 6 minutes to go. And they were on the ropes. If we had got the ball back, I fully believe we would have punched it in and won, but never got the ball back. So it's a good learning experience for our kids. And again, really proud of them. They had some legit D-line, defensive end guys, O-line, top guys in the state and the country that are getting recruited by everyone. And to be able to go toe-to-toe with those guys, hopefully we'll give them confidence because we got an even tougher match this tomorrow night against Mission Hills. So.
All right, so let's talk about the Utes and the way things worked out for them down in Provo in a Holy War game that I think most of us expected to be pretty close. It ended up being an incredibly close game. BYU, you got to give credit to them for making the plays that Utah was not able to make. And, you're a coach now, so do you take the points on the road? Do you take the points in a rivalry game when you have 3 field goal decisions that could go one way or another? How do you make those as a head coach?
Yeah, it's much different in high school. Obviously, my philosophy, I go for it on fourth down, I've gone for it on 4th and 1 inside my own 10-yard line. So, but on the flip side, in college and in the NFL, I'm a big proponent of taking the points on the road, especially 2 evenly matched teams. Points are going to be hard to come by, and it's always the case. You see it year in and year out. Where coaches, for whatever reason, you gotta, as a head coach, you gotta be convicted and trust your gut, trust your instincts, right? And don't look back. So, am I gonna question those calls? No, because it's not my decision to make. If I were the coach, I would have kicked the field goals because I take the points on the road in a playoff type game because I know possessions are going to be limited, scoring points is going to be limited. So that is my explanation on that, just as a coaching hat. There are many things that happened in that game of why we lost. And ultimately, it comes down to the details, blocking, tackling, fundamentals. Okay? That's the name of the game. It always has been. Can you control the line of scrimmage? Can you pressure the quarterback? And can you tackle? Can you block? And can you get off blocks? And BYU did a better job. And, you got to tip your hat. Place was rocking. The energy, the enthusiasm from the sidelines, the players, they got a really good team, guys, and there are no excuses. They outplayed us. They did the little things correctly. They didn't turn over the ball. They didn't force Bear to drop back and pass. They kept to the philosophy, and they understand the way they're going to win the game is to run the football. And they even 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 15 at the end of the game, with the game on the line, what did Coach Roderick do? QB draw, which killed the Utes, I think, 3 times in that game, and put the game away. The game was over at that point. And, yeah, we scored a touchdown late. Offensively, let's not even get into that. Well, I'm sure we will, but that's a whole other comment that I'll have on that.
Well, look, you and I have talked many times about how evenly matched teams, these games are going to come down to 3, 4, 5 plays, and that's how this one played out. And there's a couple questions I have for you in that regard. 2 of those plays were put in the hands of talented freshmen. Now, I get it. They're freshmen. If they're on the field, they're supposed to be able to compete just like everyone else. BYU's quarterback is a true freshman, and he was touching the ball every damn play. But when we're talking about this Utah football team, you know, one of the most costly plays of the game, a muff punt. You got a true freshman back there returning those, and I don't want to question coach's decisions. Why is he back there? But how much does it matter when you got a young kid who hasn't been in that environment, he hasn't been in that rivalry game, and in crucial situations, that guy's got to make a play.
Yeah, I flip it around and I take the approach as a coach that is a coaching the details up issue. Okay, and I put myself in that same boat. We had many times, 4 or 5 times, where we had a zero peel, which means we are overloading blitz. We have a free runner. And I didn't coach up the details of the coverage and the situation of the coverage guys, saying, okay, in this situation, guys, our technique as corners is we flat foot read at 7 yards, inside leverage. We trigger on the first move we see, understanding the ball has to come out. If the ball doesn't come out, then we man turn and play through the hands, okay? What happens in the game? 3 times our corners are backing up and we give up a slant to get a first down or to win the game. So that's coaching. Okay, that's the details within the details of the scheme and the techniques and fundamentals. So in that situation, was it being talked about when you have to run up more than 5 yards when you're already at a landmark of 35 yards or whatever that number is? That is a poison call all day, every day. And that, honestly, was probably the biggest momentum shift. We get the ball at midfield with 3 timeouts, going to go up a score and get the ball at half. Now we're down 3 going into half when lost all the momentum. I mean, it was a complete and utter disaster of the fundamentals and situational football in that sense.
The other one, and I fully acknowledge it's easy to be an armchair quarterback here and to be the dumb radio guy who, when he was young enough to do it, wasn't good enough to do it, and see a guy just have a quarterback in the grasp and give up on the play for some, what I think, unexplainable reason. You played it in those situations, not only in college, but for years in the NFL. Did you ever have one of those where the play is there, you have the tackle made, you think you hear a whistle, whatever else, and it's just like, oh, I let it go. That is, you talked about the buff punt being the biggest momentum shift. It's
no, that was right there with it too.
Teo Johnson has Bear Bachmeier in the grasp, dead to rights. He's not going to escape that tackle, and it ends up being a penalty, an ejection of a team captain, and finishes that touchdown or finishes that drive with the touchdown. And look, I don't want to keep beating up Teo. I don't want to keep reliving this bad moment. But like I said, you're a guy who's played every down of football imaginable. How do we explain it?
Yeah, watching the play, obviously the ramifications of that play is been talked about. That right there with the muff pump and the underthrow, late throw on the pick. I don't understand that in the sense that he does. Devin, as much as I love him and he does a lot of great things, when you drop back to pass and you're always retreating, you're never stepping up. Never stepping up. I don't want to say never, but very rarely do you step up and escape. It's always retreat. That's what happens. You're late when that ball should be completed on the sideline. Throw it to the sideline. I mean, that's day one offensive football, coaching it up. We don't retreat as a quarterback. We don't. It's just not reality. It's not real football. So, sorry for the tangent. But going back to Teo, I think he thought it was done. That's what it looks like to me. Like, I don't think he heard a whistle. I just think he thought he was wrapped up. And with the rules and fear of roughing the passer and this and that, it's really unfortunate. I've had bad games. I've missed tackles. I've gave up touchdowns. I've lost games. All you can hope is you learn from it, you're coached up, and you're humbled by it, and you want to be better because was that a huge play in the game? Obviously. If he wraps him up, it's 3rd down and forever, and we're probably getting the ball back. But at the end of the day, BYU's the better team. And I think eventually that would have came through because that's just how football works. The better team usually wins when they don't make the mistakes. and hold their composure and do the things right within the scheme of football.
So, 2 conference losses. There are 11 teams in the Big 12 conference right now who still mathematically are in the hunt for a conference championship. There are a lot of people who see this BYU team and now 3 narrow-scape victories and a tough schedule ahead, and they say, all right, they're not going to finish undefeated. Texas Tech showed some vulnerabilities. Arizona State, we saw against Utah, isn't a perfect team. It still feels like the conference championship matchup is way up for grabs, and there's a way for Utah to backdoor their way back into the picture the same way they did in the second Pac-12 championship. But you got to get right now, and you got to get a win against Colorado, and you got to get ready for a big game against Cincinnati. How do you make sure that BYU doesn't beat you twice?
Yeah, I mean, that fully comes down to the leaders of the team, the motivation and inspiration and leadership of the head coach and the coordinators and position coach, all being aligned, all having the proper energy and passion and vision to get through this next game and to shake it off. I mean, honestly, I've never been one to rely on coaches or my peers to help me improve, to get over bad play. I was always trying to self-reflect, good, bad, or indifferent, always trying to improve. So really, it ultimately comes down to the individual, and it comes down to the kids that you recruit and bring in your program, and if they're really buying into the culture and the standard that you're setting. So I would fully expect an energized, passionate group that wants to go out there and keep this season going and win as many games as possible and see what happens. If we don't see that, then there's a disconnect, and that will be really unfortunate for us that love and support the youths so proudly.
The big story in pro sports today, the NBA has a couple of high-profile arrests, and, Chauncey Billups got busted for being involved in mafia-run poker games. Terry Rozier is being involved in online gambling conspiracies, allegedly, of course. How much a reality is this in the NFL? I mean, I know there's poker games. I know there's all this type of stuff. I know some guys bet, some guys don't. How diligent did you have to be during your career to make sure you stayed out of the mess?
I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, babe. Now, I don't know how much is in the NFL, but I fully believe basketball and maybe even baseball and all these other sports that have a direct effect on the game. I think there's too many factors, if I'm being honest, to have it creep in the NFL. Now, that I don't doubt that sometimes some of the refs had some issues or some involvement, but I don't know. I don't know for sure, but basketball is too easy to affect the game in a positive or negative light with money on the line, and then you get into bed with some big-time profile people that are going to put you in a spot where you have to do something, then that's no bueno. So I don't know. I've never seen it in the NFL, like, firsthand, but I'm not surprised in the NBA, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are some big names, some big people that come to light of, shaving games, shaving points, doing whatever it takes, because you get in a hole in gambling, you get involved with the wrong people, as we know, there's no way out. You have to do what those people think or people make you do.
You said already that this week's matchup is a tough one. What do we expect against Mission Hills?
Oh, man. Well, there's well coached, as you'll find in San Diego. They are disciplined. You're not gonna trick dick them per se like you can other teams that just are unsound. You have to out execute this team to have a chance. They got the quarterback's a 4 or 5-star quarterback. He was committed to Penn State. He just decommitted because Franklin got fired. But he's a stud, all 6'4", 220, really good player. They got skills. They're not as big as Oceanside was last week. They play just as hard. And the scheme is good. They run it well. They're very formation-based defensively. If you line up in this formation, they're going to play this coverage. If you line up in this formation, they're going to play this coverage. So we're going to have a good idea. They just play it really well. So, number 2 ranked team in San Diego. We're ranked 12, so we got a tough match. But if it's close, my money's on us to win this game, baby, which I expect us to do.
Let's go, Broncos. By the way, Mission Hills is the Grizzlies, and Grizzlies are extinct in the state of California, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. Get back on the right foot, baby.
All right. We'll hope that for the Broncos of Rancho Bernardo and for the Utes this weekend against Colorado. E-Dub, I always love talking to you, man. Thanks for your time.
Always, brother. Love you. Go Utes.
That's Eric Weddle, the Utah football legend, coaching up the details. See, when you talk to Weddle about these things, he's excellent. He puts things in a perspective, right, where as fans, certainly us in the media, we're always looking for someone to blame. And I think he does a good job of making sure that you put it's something that was failed. It's a task. And I guess, yes, at the end of the day, a person has to perform that task. But he's not saying, oh, Mana Carvalho, you muffed that because you're a freshman and you're too nervous. It's the attention to detail and making sure that you address all of the permutations, all the contingencies that can happen when you're back there fielding a punt. If you've got to run up too far, poison, poison, poison. You've seen it a million times. You point, you tell your teammates, get away from the ball. The guys that are back there blocking or that are running back there to help set up the blocking scheme for you, their job when they hear a poison call, just bail out, run to the sideline so the ball doesn't bounce off the back of your helmet or whatever. It's those attention to detail things. And credit to Eric Weddle because he's got that seasoned eye. He just said, look, BYU deserved that win more than Utah did. That's tough to hear, but if it's the reality, you got to get back on the horse. You got to go beat Colorado. You got to keep yourself in the picture and hope that good things happen. Yeah,
it reminds me, Trevor Riley didn't quite put it that way with us on Wednesday, OC, but he did say, I was a special teams coach at Colorado. So he did say that he did allude to that the coaching needs to be better on the special teams side as well. So that's 2 guys who played it at the NFL level, played it at a high level at the University of Utah, and have coached it now. They've told us, like, yeah, it's not necessarily. Of course, it's always on the players for not executing well, but it's not necessarily all on the player for making a mistake. It's on the coaches for not preparing them as well as they should have in those certain situations. And hopefully, this is something that they build off of and end up undefeated rest of the season, so they can stay in the conference championship picture.
All right, we've got some trivia next. 2 Sal Vulcano tickets to give away. He's coming to Eccles Theater October 25th. That's this Saturday, people, so your last chance today and tomorrow to win tickets to get those things secured. We'll wrap up the show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show, wrap it up. We got Sal Vulcano tickets to give away. He's at Eccles Theater on Saturday night. So if you don't have Colorado tickets, I'll give you a little consolation, and you'll get some Sal Vulcano tickets. All right. I asked the question earlier, where did Chauncey Billups play his college ball? He's in the news today. Where did Terry Rozier play college basketball? 877-353-0700 for 2 tickets to Sal Vulcano at Eccles Theater this Saturday. Sean O'Connell Show, wrap it up. That means the drive with Spence Checketts is about to start. Spence is here in our Broadway studios. Hi, Spence.
Hello, Sean. This is a wild day.
It is.
For Adam Silver's having a bad day. This is a bad day for the commissioner of the NBA. This is the one thing when it comes to preserving the integrity of the games that leagues are hyper vigilant about. It's why Pete Rose was never allowed back in baseball.
Yeah.
It's why, in the NFL, Calvin Ridley gets caught throwing a bet down on DraftKings. He's done for the year. And then, someone's arrested for domestic violence. They're suspended for 2 weeks. Like, this is the thing that leagues take more seriously than anything else. And I just wonder if this is the tip of the iceberg. The wildest part, Chauncey Billups coached a game last night and was arrested at 6 a.m. at his house. Terry Rozier had a game last night in Orlando and was arrested at 6 a.m. in a hotel in Orlando. Like, these dudes were working last night, and now they're sitting in a jail cell awaiting what's next.
I think that it is the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to get a lot more. I think that there's the potential for higher profile names to be involved in this.
Yeah.
And I think it is going to be a mess that the NBA tries its best to clean up. And look, it ignites or reignites some of the old conspiracy stories and conspiracy theories about how in previous iterations of the NBA in earlier years, maybe they had an easier time of covering things like this up and sweeping it under the rug. And we know the most high-profile conspiracy story is that Michael's baseball foray was actually a gambling suspension served in the public eye, which, like, I mean, I love a good conspiracy theory. I love the Hollywood nature of this. If I'm Chauncey Billups, I'm actually pretty upset that my name is being thrown in the same bucket as the Terry Rozier stuff, because there's a difference for me between you're involved in poker games with bad people and you're fixing games potentially.
Yeah, no, there's a clear line of delineation between those two things. Like, I don't think Chauncey will never be allowed to coach again.
Yeah.
Because he didn't, as of now, he did not bet on his team or he didn't bet on NBA basketball games. But I just finished reading the first docket that was released after the press conference. The poker games that Chauncey allegedly was involved in, X-rays under the table where you can see cards, like specialized contact lenses where you can see through the cards that were marked, tens of millions of dollars. Did you ever see the movie Rounders? The Matt Damon?
Oh, yeah.
Such a good movie.
It's an unbelievable movie.
One of the best Edward Norton performances of all time.
We might be getting a sequel, by the way.
Seriously.
Matt Damon and whoever wrote that one, it's somebody he worked on other movies with, but they've apparently talked about it. It would be great. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
It still stands the test of time. Love it. Now I have a new goal, Spence. I want to become wealthy enough in my life to be a mark for some of these. Like, I want some random person to be like, hey, would you like to play a poker game with Victor Wembanyama? And just be like, yes, I would love to.
What was the other movie? Jessica, oh, man.
Jessica Chastain, Molly's Game.
Molly's Game. With
That's
all those,
a real story.
Yeah,
It's a true story.
I did not read the book.
The sister of Jeremy Bloom.
That's right. Friend of the show, Jeremy Bloom. Didn't he play college football at Colorado?
He played at Colorado.
Yeah.
He was like one of the original high-profile NIL cases because he was a Olympic caliber skier, a freestyle skier.
Yeah.
Was not allowed to keep his endorsement money and his eligibility. Had to choose one or the other, which is so insane when you think about it now. But yeah, Molly's Game is Jessica Chastain is an angel on earth.
Yes,
so
she is.
I watch anything she's in. But like, yeah, that really happened. And the names, by the way, the alleged names involved in that poker gambling ring that she was organizing were like big time sports and NFL names and things like that. So it's not like we just had Eric Weddle on, and he's like, I would not be surprised if this got a lot uglier. He spent, his whole adult life in the NFL seeing guys flirting with these types of disasters.
Well, and I don't know, what the PFL landscape is like if you're flying on planes together trying to kill time and throw cards or whatever. But I can tell you, and James asked me before we cracked the mic for this segment, like, did you ever see any of this in your experience? And once upon a time, NBA chartered flights were much more relaxed than they are now. Now it's mostly teams and coaches, few broadcasters. Back in the day, certain family members, media members used to fly on charters. And I can tell you, I never saw anything that was like betting on games. But those guys are throwing cards for hours, winning and losing tens of thousands of dollars. Like, that's not a new thing. David Stern, may he rest in peace, I had him on my podcast. It was probably my highest downloaded podcast. And I asked him, I said, look, I know you're going to get mad at me. And he did. But when Mike took the 2 years and played baseball, was he in trouble? Did you encourage him to take a break because the heat was too hot? And because he had known me since I was born, he just said, Spencer, you know better than to ask me that. So he didn't directly answer the question. I don't think that was the deal. I think there was a lot of Mike's father was murdered and baseball was their thing. I think he wanted to go try it. But I can tell you this, there's documentation. The NBA did investigate Michael Jordan because they got information that he was losing hundreds of thousands of dollars on the golf course. So they investigated and said, look, nothing to see here. That's his private life. And also, you're Michael Jordan, right? Like, you can do whatever you want to do in your private life. But there have been several incidents in the past where there's a lot of smoke, but there hasn't been as much fire. And now it's just easier because everything's online. So you can get the information. Like, if $1.5 million comes in on Jonte Porter's under, somebody's going to be like, dude, what's going on with Jonte Porter tonight?
Right.
Or Terry Rozier, who hasn't been good in a number of years. Like, why are there $2.7 million coming in on Terry Rozier under assists? Like, it's easy now for the leagues to get the information.
And it doesn't even have to be numbers like that. I mean, there was the college baseball one where there was a $5,000 bet placed on LSU baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, that never happens.
Yeah.
College baseball gets $15 bets.
Right.
Why is there a $5,000 bet?
Yeah.
So the legal betting stuff, the
Yeah.
legal sports gambling stuff is actually heavily regulated, and it's hard to scheme and scam.
Yeah.
One way you can do it is by being in a locker room and knowing who's hurt and who's not.
100%.
So
we just got a $7 million bet from the Gambino family on Jonte Porter under 4 rebounds. Let's go ahead and dig into this one, boys. Like, it's not that hard to see when it's not above board.
Before I turn it over to you, can we point out some positivity here?
Mm-hmm.
There were 4 mafia families all mentioned in this case. Seems like they're working together instead of killing each other.
Yeah, you finally were coming together as a country. That's
Finally.
a great point. You know what? Today is a day of unification.
The Gambinos, the Lucchese's, the Genovese's. Come on. These are blood enemies.
If they can do it, we can do it.
We can all come together.
That's the message today on the show. Thank you, Sean.
Stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. And thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700.